What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. I have to say, people have asked for this conversation, and it's happening today. So Mr. Matt Smith and Mr. Dave Collum, thank you for participating. Good to see you guys.
It's my pleasure, but I reserve the right as the one with the far lower IQ to tap out.
Oh, come on.
If you have the far lower IQ, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I mean, I'm just the facilitator and the ball handler. You guys are the ones that drive to the basket, dunk, and shoot the threes. So I thank you for allowing me to be part of this.
I really don't think I have that high an IQ. I think I just bullshit. Yeah, it's good. I'm fine.
Let me start off with this.
I was in a cabin. I was in a cabin. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me start off because people have messaged me and wondering where you are, Dave, and if you're okay and what's going on, because you said this is your first podcast in a month.
I swear, I almost asked Mike yesterday where you were because because I'm so used to seeing you once every week or two.
Yeah, I was doing like one every 2 days. I was in, my wife has a cabin built in 1902 by her family in the Adirondacks. And so we go up there. And normally she likes to be up there by herself. She's happy to be, but she's not that healthy. And so she really can't be up there by herself. And so I was up there with her. What happened is that she wiped out our 2 laptops. And so I ended up getting her an iPad, and I was able to round up an old Dell with Windows on it, and it's just a very foreign ecosystem for both, and so I was really marginally functional, and they didn't have audio, visual shit on them, so I just said screw it, and just shut down completely. It timed somewhat with my Carlson interview, so I think people thought I got whacked or something.
Yeah, well, it's not like there's nothing that's happened since you've been offline.
Yeah, and it's not like I don't have opinions about it all. Yeah, I know.
Has this stuff calmed down since the Tucker interview?
With respect to me?
Yeah.
I just got some anti-Semite accusations it was kind of funny. So it started with Mark Levin, where I was talking explicitly about Stalin having been the worst guy in World War II. And I quoted Patton saying that we should have gone after Stalin, and I made some phrase about we should have sided with Hitler and gone after Stalin, and that triggered. I used the H word, which was a mistake, but it was all about Stalin being bad. It was nothing about supporting Hitler, and it got taken out of context, and Levin went after me, and then Ted Cruz went after me, and then some others did. Laura Loomer, some guys who I don't know who have post office boxes in Haifa or something, and then Tucker fought back and said, look, calm down, Mark. You in no way, shape, or form supported Hitler. You didn't listen, that sort of thing. So what was a little odd, they posted on Twitter what was really interesting, and I watched pretty carefully at this point. They posted on Twitter, and the Twitter sphere annihilated them, just annihilated them. They said, did you not listen to what he said? Are you unaware of what Patton said? Are you unaware of any of this history, you morons? It was 100% attack against those 2 clowns. So that was good. But then they brought in Victor Davis Hanson, who went at 3 points, not having listened to the interview, but just these little excerpts, these taken out of context excerpts. And I think Victor was wrong on all 3 counts, actually. But I have to take him more seriously.
Yeah, I would too. But what are the things he said?
Well, one of the things he said is he said that Patton, he did some nitpicking on Patton's comment about going after Stalin instead of Hitler, textually in some different time frame. And I go, okay, I'll give it to you, but fuck, who cares, right? I had made a comment that Michael remember when we did a 3-way with Diana West, right? Mike, do you remember this?
Yeah.
And Diana got mad at me over this podcast because she got dragged into the swamp pretty quickly. But when we did the podcast, at one point I said to her, I'm not sure the Jews would agree, but one could argue we should side with Hitler and go after Stalin, right? And she said, I remember this vividly, she said, well, I am a Jew and I do agree, right? So there was that. But she, in her book, which I'd read a half a dozen books and wrote about them, she said that, the story that there's something like 18 U.S. servicemen missing in Soviet territory. It's more like 15 to 20,000. Do you remember that, Mike?
Vaguely.
Like
I'd have to go back and
15,000.
rewatch it,
But it was a big number, and I quoted that, and Victor said, no, there are only 18 missing. I go, well, that's exactly the number that Diana West said is bullshit. So he quoted the narrative number, the one that everyone accepts as the answer, which we know is never true anymore. And then the most absurd thing he said was I put in after I said, Patton said it. I said, it for all we know, maybe it would have, maybe the Holocaust wouldn't have occurred. And she had said World War II could have been shortened dramatically if we had done things different, right? So that wasn't even out of left field. And he said that was an absurd statement. And I said, well, it's a counterfactual. So a butterfly could flap its wings and the outcome of the war could be different, right? And I said, but the idea that if we had somehow teamed up with the Germans instead of with the Russians, you control your allies more than you control your enemies. It's quite possible that things would have played out very different. And to call it absurd in itself is absurd because it's a counterfactual. So you can't say absurd.
That's surprising from him, honestly.
I know. Well, I think he got reeled in to I think they suckered him in. And someone wants to criticize him as a Straussian conservative, which I don't really even know what that means, but I think it means that he's a neocon in some ways. So I like him. I mean, I think he's a smart guy. So I forgive him, but I think he was wrong 3 for 3 on that.
You forgive him for unfounded attacks?
Yeah, exactly.
Very generous of you.
Well, yeah, but I think he got called in and they gave him a little bit of, if you watch the whole interview, you would have said, look, this guy's a loose cannon. This is nothing. The shit he said about X, Y, and Z, right? But, I think it calmed down because the counterattacks against the 2 clowns were so aggressive that they realized that they didn't have a good story. And so I'm going to write about it. I'm going off the reservation this fall. I'm gonna do a narrative of my journey trying to understand the Israel-Palestine conflict from T=0, right, from the very beginning. And as Mike knows, I had been agnostic. In part,
I remember that, and I remember being disappointed that you said, "I just don't talk about this."
Well, so I read a bunch of books in the Middle East, and I concluded I just wasn't qualified to have an opinion that was worth a shit. And there's plenty of people screaming about it, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not agnostic. Well, but that's what switched me over, right?
wait, hold on, Matt. Wait, Dave, hold a second. Matt, what did you just say?
Except for the killing kids things.
Right.
That's
right.
where that's my line,
And that's why I realized that I'd crossed from being highly conservative agnostic because I'm not qualified to I crossed the cowardice dotted line. And I said, okay, now you're not talking about it because you just don't have the balls. And so now I'm growing a pair. So I'm going to write about it.
Introspective of you. That's rare today.
I'm told.
Introspection.
Yeah, I know. I know. So it's going to be. My wife is a little worried I'm going to get us shot. I don't think I'm important enough. I think that's overstatement. Jeff Sachs would have been shot. John Mearsheimer would have been shot. Max Blumenthal would have been shot. There are people way more important.
Censored or debanked, however.
Yeah, I know. Fuckers.
What? So many different directions to go with all this. I mean, we can stay in the Middle East, or we can go to the.
They're all down. They're all down.
They're all down. Well, I mean, being away for a month, what is your take on where we're at right now, and what do you think? I mean, where do you guys want to start? You want to start with Venezuela because that's happening as we speak, or the Middle East?
I'll let Matt take that one because Venezuela's been off my radar. I really don't know what's going on there at all.
Well, I mean, what's really happening? Exactly. They're organizing. They're basically doing exercises around Puerto Rico. They've got some, not enough for an invasion, some troops in the area. They are illegally blowing up boats, which some people...
You mean the drug runners, the so-called drug running boats,
yeah,
those boats?
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, I just have this principle that, like, when the state breaks the law, I realize that's bad for me.
I know. I agree with you 100%. But then you get this problem. So where it gets a little vague is if you say, look, we are at war with these guys. I know we don't declare wars ever again. But that's where it gets tricky because if you say we're at war with these guys, then you start blowing boats out of the water. We do it and it's not just, I'm anti-war to an extreme at this point.
Yes, me too. And Trump did effectively declare war today.
Oh, he did? What did he say?
I mean, it's what he sent a message to Congress that said that they are. Did he use the term war? He said an armed conflict with the drug cartels.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
Does that include the CIA?
I'm pretty sure they're on the good side of things. I
don't think so.
I mean, on the good side of I don't mean they're good. I mean they're involved in the drugs, and they're the cartel that gets protected.
Oh, yeah, they're a protected cartel, right? They're our cartel.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on with people that are, and this is my whole point of kind of where I'm heading with this show right now, because it doesn't matter, in my view, it doesn't matter who's sitting in the seat. The goal is the same. They just move it towards the narrative that gets their side to cheer, right? So you look at what's occurring today with Venezuela, and I think to myself, I'm like, how am I benefiting from this? Blowing up boats.
The government doesn't exist to benefit you.
Yeah, Mike, where is this idea coming from?
I forgot, sorry.
It's like an app.
But people are cheering for this. Why?
Oh, yeah. I mean, easy wins, blowing up boats that are of really evil people, we think, that deserve it because they're responsible for fentanyl deaths, even though the biggest problem is if they say that they are in armed conflict with these cartels are in the United States. And Trump has been trying, it's all his messaging since the Charlie Kirk funeral. That bullet wasn't just coming for Charlie, it was coming for America. Like, that's crazy talk at his ceremony, right? And at his funeral. And then of course in front of the generals. We will train in American cities. Which will what exactly do you say? For the battlefield of the future or something. In American cities, in front of all the generals. This is all setting up for the enemy within. Which is what every American should be concerned about, even if right now they're getting the bad guys.
Did you read Richard Clark's book from about 04, 5, 6, somewhere in that range? Richard
I
Clark was some big NSA type. I can't remember what his position was, but his punchline at the end of the book basically implied the enemy is within. And he was very big swinging dick in the Bush administration.
I remember him, yeah.
And he defied the system. He did not sign off on the Condoleezza Rice model of the world. And
I mean, this is, I don't know, as people see this is, they go, well, they went after all the J6 people. That was bad, and the state was wrong in doing that. And now they're targeting some other amorphous other, which, who are the cartel? Who exactly are they? The leftist extremists? Do you know how easily this switches? You know what the thing I have in common with leftist extremists? I don't like or trust the government.
right.
And ultimately, that ends up being something that they, could make you a target. So January 6th was bad, obviously. Blowing up boats is bad. If they really wanted to get to the bottom of the cartels, they would arrest them, they would interrogate them, and they would figure out more about the suppliers, they would move it up the chain. That's the way you handle an investigation.
Yeah, take the fun out of it, right?
Why can't they freeze up the funds? Why they had no problem debanking Americans. This is what I don't understand about this whole thing is like they don't have the ability to track down where the money is going. I mean, I know you're going to go through offshoring but I mean, it probably all ties into a financial institution that eventually goes to a JP Morgan and a Citi and whatever other international banks are out there. They can't
HSBC.
They can't connect the dots and freeze the money.
AKA BCCI, right? I'm in a Zoom group that has occasionally some fascinating people in it. And one of the guys who's fairly regular is Jerome Corsi. And he says all the big banks are laundering like crazy. It's not just HSBC. It's not just BCCI. They're all doing it. They're all doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I live in the Southern Cone, it's not so much a big deal in here in Uruguay, but in Argentina, they keep all their money in New York and Miami,
Right.
and everything. Why? Because it's the best money haven on earth. All kinds of things you can do with those banks if you're not an American.
Right. The banking cartel is just like the drug cartel.
They're connected, totally. And I think that, and they literally are clients of one another, that's for sure. And I think the biggest problem is or to your question, Mike, is they have no real interest in actually addressing the issue because there are a lot of people that benefit from it. And so they're not interested in that. What they, just like wars, they send the plebs to go get slaughtered on the front lines. And, that's fine. That's fine. It's like, it's a good show. They're very satisfied with that result, but they aren't actually interested in dealing with solving any real problem. I mean, you could shut down, if you shut down finance, you shut down the drug cartel, but they don't want to do that. They fine them occasionally and they just take back a portion of their profits and they keep doing business.
I used to estimate that the fines were roughly 3% of the profits.
Cost of doing business, man. That's a great deal.
I know. It's a modest. The other thing they do is you hear about a big headline fine, which, if nothing else, it comes out of the shareholders. So it's coming out of pension plans. But also, what you don't hear about is some number of months later, that fine would be reduced. And then you find out that the fine is tax deductible. And so it'd be reduced more. And so it would be down from 2 billion down to, 150 million.
Wow. I had no idea.
And that's just a big payday for one CEO.
And these are people clearly caught red-handed laundering money for the cartel. Yep. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they don't, the boats are a sideshow. It's a joke.
Right.
We're in the Miami.
Anytime you have war on fill in the blank, the word on is the key. In is a war. War in Iraq, war in Iran, war on is a fake. Always.
Especially if your enemy isn't named, is not a person. It's
Right.
not a,
Right.
it's not a name.
And there's no geography involved.
Exactly.
Well, now we're in the Miami Vice space, right? Like now this is, and this, Matt, you and I were messaging about this, and I've been talking about a lot on my show, was after the Charlie Kirk, the death of him, it's the good, we're back to the good guys, bad guys narrative again, right? I mean, we're always at that, but it's like, how can we distract people to, get them paying attention to this?
Yeah, it's time to distract them, just get them funneled and herding like I do with my cattle when I'm moving them down a specific path.
I don't have cattle. I'm all hat, no cattle. Did you see the rant by a guy named, I think it's Charles Hughes, who's an expert on propaganda?
Yep,
And
I've
he went
seen
into
some of
this,
stuff.
and he did this great rant soon after Charlie Kirk, which we should talk about because that story's complicated, where he talked about how much they're manipulating us. So something we know, but he did a really good job. He says, you know how you're being socially engineered. If you're on the internet, you're mad at someone. You just got socially engineered.
That's a good clue. I think anytime your emotions are pulled into it in any way, sadness, happiness, or anger, I think that's how they get you. It's all emotionally based.
Mm-hmm. It happens to me every day.
Not for the last month because you haven't been doing podcasts.
No, but I had a computer so I could read the stuff and get mad. I just couldn't articulate it to the world in a way that would get me in trouble.
Yeah,
It's probably for the best.
One last thing on this whole Venezuela, and Whitney Webb brought this up in her conversation with Marty Bent last week, and with Mark Goodwin as well. If they really were concerned about cutting off drug flow, why wouldn't they go after the big pharma reps or the executives?
Well,
that's a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah,
that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, you talk about the CIA. That's the good cartel. The drug companies are the good cartel.
I consulted for Pfizer for 20 years and collaborated or consulted with probably 80% of the 10 biggest drug companies. Where I was consulting, you couldn't see the problem. I was just talking to chemists, right? And so their job was to make the drug more efficiently and stuff like that. Cheryl Atkinson did a show. Cheryl's very good at this stuff. And she did a show where she talked about Sudafed. And Sudafed has a thing called pseudoephedrine in it. And the druggies figured out that you could turn it into a high pretty fast. And so it moved off the shelf behind the counter, and then it was no longer of value. There are 265 products on the shelf that had pseudoephedrine in it. And
because it works.
Because it works. And then they replaced with a thing called phenylephrine, which turns out not to work at all. So now there's 265 drugs that don't work at all to cure stuffy nose.
Yeah, you have to get your driver's license now if you go behind the counter to get the real stuff, the real Sudafed. They actually take your driver's license.
Can you get it?
You can get it. I mean, I haven't been in the U.S. in 18 months, but I mean.
I don't think you can get it anymore. I don't
really?
think you can
Maybe
get it
by
anymore.
states.
Maybe, I don't know, but they've. If you see one of those nasal things that says PE, that means phenylephrine.
Which means useless.
Which means useless, yes. And some of them, like neosynephrine, my grandmother was the only thing that cleared up congestion, and finally some doctor said it's causing it. And she cold turkeyed it, and her congestion problem went away. These are the perfect drugs, right? The really perfect one, I think, is the one that prevents AIDS. I think AIDS has run its course and has burned its way through the system. There's pretty good evidence of that, actually.
There are millions of people that are taking it every day.
And so there's these AIDS prevention drugs, and they're 100% efficacious. Right? It's like a hippopotamus repellent. There's no hippos around here. See, it works.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to some friend of mine had a party, and there were a bunch of gay guys there like 2 years ago.
Right.
And I asked him about this actually, like, you don't hear about AIDS anymore. Is it an issue? He's like, no, we just
Take
take a
PrEP.
pill. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of that. And I'm like, so it's gotten really gross, I guess, from what I got out of that guy since then, since that fear went away.
I think it's possible that pill's not doing anything.
Hmm.
That could be total placebo. Related case. Here's one for you. There's narratives that we won't let go, right? For example, we saved the world from tyranny in World War II, right? That was the Dinah West story that we covered. The moth in the iron lung is about the polio vaccine. The polio turns out to have been a description of a symptom for centuries. Every once in a while, someone would get paralytic, and they called it poliomyelitis. So then it was exceedingly rare until the late 19th century, the very end of the 19th century. And then it showed up as paralytic. And it was paralytic both temporally, coincident with, and geographically coincident with arsenic spray being used to fight the gypsy moth. Moth in the iron lung. So it turns out that what it does is, it's a fascinating story. What it does is it destroys the intestine, the arsenic salts. And the intestine of a newborn, a youngster, goes right past the spinal cord, and the spinal cord sticks out a little longer than in a developed adult. And so the toxins and the viruses and the various things can get to the spinal cord because it's been perforated in the intestine. And that's why, by the way, polio was sort of lower half most problematic because it was where it was hitting the spinal cord. And then they to fight the gypsy moth, they came up with a stickier version of the arsenic salts with lead in it this time. That's always good. Add some lead. And then they were spraying everything, just everything. And then they switched over to DDT. Oh, there's a win. And it turns out DDT had the same effect. Now, what they figured out was, they thought it was this virus. And then all of a sudden the entire scientific community said, virus, one solution, virus. Even though there were various polio outbreaks that didn't make sense. And they weren't like the others. And they were jumping all over the place. And they became so hyper-focused. And it turns out that when they got rid of the DDT,
went away.
The vaccine started working.
See, all this nonsense has been going on for much longer than we imagine.
I know. And if you were anti-arsenic, you got vilified. And if you were anti-vax, there were vaccines that were doing a lot of damage to people, and you were anti-vax. You got beaten on. So moth in the iron lung is a compelling story. Now, the polio vaccine story will never go away because it's the high watermark for modern medicine.
Oh, they will not let that die.
They will not let that die, period.
Yeah.
Period. I don't think there's a vaccine out there that you could bet your life on is worth the vaccine, is worth taking. There probably is one, but I'm not sure.
But this expert chemist who works with pharmaceutical companies has no idea what it might be.
Yeah, but I'm not a vaccine expert. But I'm not a vaccine expert. But so people should take that with a grain of salt. But I'm done with vaccines. I would never take a flu vaccine. You have no idea what's in that thing now. So
yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that because the polio vaccine is such a benchmark,
exactly.
Then there are so many implications associated with that. Mm-hmm. If you buy that, you have to buy this whole stack of other assumptions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was reading about vaccines before COVID, for about 20 years, actually. Just once in a while I'd pick up a vaccine book, and one was really quite honest. It talked about all the vaccines that have been developed and how hard they are to develop that don't hurt people. And it says the military has all sorts of vaccines against all sorts of pathogens, but they're just too dangerous, right? And so the book seemed really honest to me. And so I was interested in that. About 6 months to a year before COVID showed up, I saw a TED talk by a woman. If you search TED talk, polio vaccine, you'll find it, where she said, we've been vaccinating for polio in Africa for, 15, 20 years. She said, what I will tell you is that none of the vaccinated kids are dying of polio. But she said the 2-shot vaccine, which is the dead vaccine, is not as effective as the 1-shot vaccine, which is the attenuated live vaccine, at preventing all-cause mortality. So she said, my advice is get the single-shot vaccine, which is the live one. It was having a more positive effect on the immune system for other problems. And I was sitting there thinking, trying to figure out why that would be. Well, what is it about a vaccine that would make the immune system more robust? And then about 5 years later, it clicked. I go, no, it is doing less damage than the 2-shot vaccine. So the all-cause mortality was up for both, but up worse for the... And whenever they do a control experiment for these vaccines, like if you have a new AIDS drug, you would compare it to AZT. That was your control experiment. AZT was death in a bottle. Yeah. It's like remdesivir, remdesivir, that one. So they always pick a control experiment. They might as well just put arsenic in there. The control experiment's arsenic and lead. How do we do relative to that? Right? Control experiment should be a bullet in the forehead. So it's that every time.
So you don't buy the, or do you buy the idea that Tylenol is a primary cause of autism? Or a
primary?
An important one enough for the president to have a super important announcement about it?
I don't know. It sure as heck has the possibility of being a decoy, right? So I really don't have enough information yet to know. It's conceivable.
Obviously, Tylenol hurts your liver. It does cause damage if you have too much of it. Like, that's known.
Right.
But it does feel decoy-ish.
It feels like a decoy. I just saw a video of a guy who says Vietnam had no autism until Bill Gates got there with his vaccine program. Vietnam's autism problem showed up with the vaccines.
Did he bring aspirin? He didn't bring aspirin with him? Or Tylenol, excuse me?
Well, they probably brought some arsenic as a control experiment.
But see, until you get all that polio nonsense out of the way, none of this will ever work, I don't think, because it's too strong in people's mind. Every time you bring up some vaccines, they go polio.
I know. We could, in theory, push back enough so we're not doing it. Oh, SIDS, by the way, appears to be a vaccine problem. The Japanese got rid of a bunch of vaccines, and their SIDS problem went away. So SIDS is a vaccine injury.
Yeah, sudden deaths seem to be very often. Do you know what's something crazy? My brother, who is 2 years older than me, I talked to him 2 weeks ago. He knows 8 people who have died in that prior 3 weeks. All within, one of them was over 70, the rest of them were within 5 years of his age. So between 47 and, 57, let's say.
Heart problems or cancer?
Both. Some heart, some cancer.
My friend died last week of a heart attack.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, what was painful is he went to the ER 2 days earlier, and they said he had a pinched nerve. A 60-year-old guy goes to the ER saying he's got pain somewhere over here on the left side, and they said he had a pinched nerve.
I hope his wife is soon in the hospital.
She's a fiance, and therefore it's not clear that she in any way,
Outstanding.
shape, or form. She has no access to anything.
Oh, shit. That's terrible.
Now, the nightmare scenario, maybe, I got to be careful here because I got colleagues who might listen, but my understanding is he might have a ton of student loan debt, which he's just ignored for obviously a long time. And it's conceivable if there's any settlements or something, they're going to swoop in and get it all.
Oh, they will. They will. And actually, you'd be surprised at the level of student debt in the 60-plus crowd. It's shocking, actually.
Well, they took after their kids.
Yeah, they did. They went back to school, is what they did.
Right.
They went back to school when it's expensive. So it's, yeah, the student debt is going to, this generation, the people going through right now, and they're a couple years out, with all the change, with an economic decline coming, so job losses naturally, with the AI stuff, that the part of it that's real, that gets rid of a lot of entry-level positions, they're going to get the biggest reg pull of any generation. And if you think they're mad at the boomers now, you just wait.
The student debt problem has two chapters. One is, what do you do with people who already have it? And the second is, how do you prevent the problem from continuing going forward? How do you deal with existing student loan debt?
You got to let them discharge it. You got to change the bankruptcy law.
I agree. What you can't do is hobble an entire generation, no matter what. That's a disaster. How do you do it in a way where the people who busted their ass to pay off that debt?
Bankruptcy, I think bankruptcy settles it. It's like when the person is bust, let them go bust.
No, I know.
That's the easy answer. Just get rid of the George W. Bush's stupid law about it. Like that's.
Yeah, I know.
You can't make the system
I
fair.
by the way, think by the way, if you look at the timing of the spike, the hockey stick of student debt, it times perfectly with the Great Recession. I think it was used as a vehicle to liquefy the system. I think it was monetary policy.
Well, and I know a lot of people who decided to go to grad school who were graduating during that time too, because the job market wasn't so good, so they would just keep it going a little longer. But the fact that they got rid of the ability to discharge it at the same time, roughly, I mean, was that during the financial crisis that they changed that law, or was that like 2000?
That's 07, 08, right
That's
there.
so messed up.
Well, so let me
Explain that, Dave. Explain Matt or Dave. Explain what they did then.
Well, what they said is that student loans cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. No matter what happens, no matter how screwed you are, you can't discharge it. I can tell you what the reasoning is and what made it easily sold. And that is that there was, at some level, a problem where kids would take on big debt and then they'd be 22 years old, declare bankruptcy, erase it, and then start life, right? And forget about whether college is worth it. We should talk about that because Matt has some ideas on that. And I'm not going to disagree with him on his ideas on that. But you could imagine saying, this idea of giving a kid a couple $100K and then having it just get wiped away just over and over and over. You could imagine trying to come up with a way to make that more rational.
People do this with credit cards all the time.
I know.
So what about them?
I know. In theory, that's being swallowed by the private sector.
Yeah.
Which explains 25% interest rates.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not. Wait, is that usury? Let me think about that. While BlackRock's getting debt at 0.15%. Yeah, I think they had a fun. I think they had a fun college. And I've added an addendum to this. But let's say you want to go to college. I know, Matt. You're
I'm
going to
a dropout.
No. But you're also going to come up. You're going to provide us with some information about how not to go to college. But I think if you came up with a system, and I presented this to Lauren Lister on Russia Today, I think in 2011, where I said, you produce a tranche of debt for the school, for the whole school, and the payback is a percentage of salary. It's some percentage rate for some number of years based on your salary.
Yeah, equity, not debt.
That's right.
Equity in the student.
And so a tranche of debt to MIT would be a good bet. A tranche of debt to St. Mary's College of the Holy Moly would be lousy debt, right? And so what it would do is it would call the herd, collegiate herd, for those colleges that are not worth the money. And then the addendum that I put on there is I said, put those tranches in the endowment, which means the universities have now a real vested interest in getting it right.
I love it. And they get the payback from the success of the students.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like equity. I make equity investments in people, not debt investments in people.
And that has been discussed. But I'm guessing there's bankers that don't like it or something. There's some reason why it's not being done.
They like fixed income. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. Well, in theory, that's fixed income, sort of. It's a little bit of like buying a junk bond fund or something. But
I don't know, because you got the upside of them. I mean, if they do, if they perform in the top whatever percent of earnings, they're only going to offer majors where there's economic viability.
That's right. The colleges will clean up their act fast. Yeah. It'll get rid of, right now, there are majors that there should probably not even be courses in, but I would let the colleges figure that out. So the tranche, I would say, give it to the college, let them figure out what's the best way to educate kids.
And if they can't raise the money,
off they go. We can live with half the number of colleges with no loss whatsoever.
And a whole bunch have shut down, actually, already.
Tiny number compared to what they could be. There's something like 8,500, so we got a ways to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, but I love that. I love the equity idea. There was a tech startup that was doing that, training developers, and it was free for the student, but then they had like a revenue share for a certain number of years after they graduated. Mm-hmm. I mean, I loved the concept. I thought it was so great. So much better for the student.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, the five guys listening to this podcast don't have the power to make this change.
The thing is, the problem is it's the government. The government should not be involved in this stuff.
I know.
That's the biggest thing. As soon as the government gets involved in it, they are going to screw it up.
But I also,
I was sensing you are not a big government guy, Matt.
Yeah, I don't like the government. Although Doug and I were talking today, and we were saying, it does feel like it's getting close to that moment where you probably should just stop talking. Now, if Harris had been elected, we would already been there. I think it'd just been better.
Who should stop? You mean we, the people, should stop talking? Or
I mean, Doug and I should at least stop saying the things that we say on our podcast.
Okay.
But I think we're definitely, Doug really liked Trump, but he was like comparatively, of course, comparatively.
Yeah, right.
Not.
We're grading on a curve. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, this guy is the perfect guy. Are you kidding? This is the guy you want to bring in right now. If you want to get compliance from people, if you want to round up all the dissidents and get them to be cool with the plan, Trump's the man. And I'm just too conspiratorial, I guess, at this stage to believe it would be anything other than that. And I think so far it's proved true because he's behaving like a madman.
Matt, let's talk about.
I was more optimistic.
Dave,
I was more optimistic.
Dave, let me throw something in here because I want to. This is Matt. You're segueing perfectly, and we can come back to the book at the end because I want to talk about that too.
Yeah, let me just say this: you should buy this book. It's called The Preparation. You will like it. Everyone likes it. I haven't heard anyone that doesn't like it. It's on Amazon. I'll tell you about it later.
It's a phenomenal book, by the way. Dave has it. I have a copy. I don't have my copy right here, but I
But
had.
Dave hasn't read it yet.
I just got home.
I know.
I'm still
saying.
washing. I'm still washing quilts from the Adirondacks.
I'm just saying when I said everybody likes it and you said Dave has it, I wanted to make sure that Dave hasn't given his endorsement to it yet. So
I like the idea. I know the idea. I like the idea. So you've already sold me on the principle and underlying the book.
Well, but it also comes back to, tying into that and then moving into what I really want to talk to you guys about. There's a number of things I want to talk to you guys about, but people need to take personal accountability and responsibility for their own household, their own neighborhoods. And what Matt has done with Doug and his son Maxim, who I've had them all on here, is come up with a template for, okay, we're not going to rely on the government to forge this path.
we don't do this in the Smith household.
No.
Rely on the government.
The government's not going to fix everything.
No, try and avoid them at all costs. They will not help you. They're not your friend.
So let me bring up what you said in February, because you posted a clip of our conversation that we had done at that time, and where the price of gold and silver is right now, because it's proven to be true what you've talked about. And I'd like to get Dave's opinion on the spike in precious metals. Stephen Moran is now he's part of the board of governors. Could he be the next chair?
Unlikely. Unlikely. He's a good guy to have there. He's always going to say what you want him to say, but he's probably not the face man. He doesn't show very well.
So
I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion.
Matt, so where do we sit here today? We're in October, and it's 7 months since that conversation, or no, almost 8 months since that conversation you and I had. And where are we at now with it?
Well, what we talked about is that it was clear to me that Trump's team had a very radical, this is before any tariff announcements, that they had a very radical economic agenda, and that it was a stated objective to devalue the dollar as part of it, that they were willing to consider options that were always off the table before, and that it could work. I suggested it's possible, because something has to be done. So because this economy is fake, and something has to be done. We are going to have to. It must be reckoned with, and the fact that they were being proactive, I thought was great. That somebody was recognizing the problem and trying and looking at it and going, okay, we got to do something. No matter what, though, it was going to mean a reduction in the standard of living of Americans, no matter what, because the only way out, even when they're pretty proactive, is a significant devaluation of the dollar. And so I think gold was like $2,900 then, and seemed very expensive to me. I didn't buy it as early as Dave did, but I bought it pretty ery, and I've been buying it for a long time.
My gold is starting to tarnish. It was so long ago, right?
But at $2,900 sure looks like a bargain now.
So
yeah.
So also with that, the idea of how stable coins might play a part in it, and Tether, and the future of the Fed.
I think Tether is demonstrating that the old banking model isn't nearly as profitable as it could be. Tether's got this crazy game. They earn, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but they make crazy money with a very low overhead for doing, very little. And I think all the banks look at that with great envy. So I think that's why they passed the Genius Act and made it so all the banks can get into that business. I also think it's the reason that when everyone was going after all of these crypto companies, strangely enough, they never went after Tether. No state official ever went after Tether at all, even though it was bigger, doing way more volume than anything else out there. It was something that was just not questioned by anybody. Why? Because it's a product of the state. So Yeah, the stable coins are a better business model than the existing banking structure.
Tether
So I think
hasn't
the
passed
reason
an audit.
moved to that.
Oh, sorry, Matt. I mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no one passes audits. No one does audits. Come on.
My brother was an accountant, and when he was in his 20s, he was the point man to audit ExxonMobil. Please explain to me how a 20-something-year-old is qualified to audit ExxonMobil.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, they have boxes they have to check. People have to sign a lot of forms,
Yes. But if someone wants to do criminal shit, it is not hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
David Einhorn wrote a book, Fooling Some of the People Some of the Time, or something like that. I read it. I just can't remember the title. And it was Allied Financial, I think, that he found. The short sellers are now AWOL, right? There's no short sellers left. They were the cops on the beat. Not all of them. Some of them were bad guys, but some of them were just finding crooks, outing them, and then making money off that. And I'm willing to, that's great. And he identified Allied Financial, and they built this case, and they finally got in front of the SEC. And one guy's listening, the other guy's being a punk-ass bitch. And a month later, the punk-ass bitch is working for Allied Financial. Now, did Einhorn eventually win? Yes, but he won because the great financial crisis arrived. They didn't win because Allied Financial somehow finally toppled. The whole thing toppled. Everything toppled.
Sounds like Madoff, where whoever that guy was.
Very Madoff.
Who personal purpose, for his own personal reasons, he went after him hard. Went into the SEC multiple times. Markopoulos.
Yeah, for years.
And it wasn't until it actually collapsed that it came to light, right? Because
Well,
SEC
J.P. Morgan knew Madoff was running a Ponzi scheme. They charged him big fees.
It's just the risk is a little higher, so we need a bigger big.
Yeah. So he's kind of a junk bond.
So now where does this, Matt, in your view, in the next 6 months to a year, where does this go? Inflation will go back up?
Inflation's going up, and inflation is a lot higher than they say it is. The CPI.
What do you think it is? Give me a number.
9.
Okay.
I don't live in the U.S., so I can only sample what I can sample, but I'd guess
Right.
9.
Right.
But you look at the Chapwood Index, which of course is not updated, as regularly as I'd like. But the fact that intelligent people still will quote the CPI as though that is a number of significance makes me insane. It has no bearing on reality. I mean, when insurance rates go down, according to them, I mean, are you supposed to take these people seriously?
No.
So all I know is that people are really having a hard time. They're having a hard time. Unless you're in the top 10% and you own stocks and...
Oh, top 10%. You got to go higher than that.
Well,
10% out. You can do it. Yeah, the people who own inflation hedging mechanisms, right, are okay. Yeah. But that's short-lived.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really only the top 1% that it feels that's doing better than they were a year ago. It's only really the 1%, which doesn't even take that much to be in the 1%, actually, in terms of pure income numbers. It's surprising. When I looked it up the first time, it shocked me.
Yeah, I think it's like 300 and something.
370,000 income, something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Not that much, really.
It's like that.
Not that much.
No. So, I read an article the other day said 62% of the people making $300K are having credit card problems.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
I heard that. But does that surprise you?
Holy moly.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, it shocks me, but doesn't surprise me. How's that?
There's zero financial literacy. People have no understanding of debt. They think it's a good thing. And, in a world of, decadence.
YOLO.
Why shouldn't you have it now?
They also live in a city, though.
YOLO.
You live in San Francisco. you live in San Francisco. There are things that are expensive as hell, right?
I agree,
there really is.
But you don't.
But 300K, right?
But you don't take on debt.
I know. I agree.
You just don't do it. It's just like it's like this bright line. It's like, fuck no. It's that simple. Yeah. It will never make your life better.
I'll give you a mortgage.
Yeah.
I'll give you a mortgage.
Because it's a fake market because of the government, and so you get to write it off on your taxes, your interest. You know, there's all kinds of benefits.
Right.
So yeah, sure, fine. But even that makes me uncomfortable. Actually, I don't like having a mortgage. I don't.
Well, I haven't had that since '98.
That's because you are a moral man.
I have no debt either. I have no debt either, and I do this full time. I have no debt.
It's an easy choice. It's just like, well, I'm just like, I guess I can't afford that thing I want to buy.
What a concept. What a concept.
Somebody said to me, because I've been on the market for a car, and they're like, well, just go, get a 25 and low APR. I was like, no, because then I end up back in a corporate job and I'm a slave again. And I don't want that, because I did a 5-year note when I was in college. It was awful because things just change. And then you're debt ridden. You're at the mercy of some guy in an office because you got to make that payment every month.
And this is what a lot of college graduates, this situation they find themselves in now. So basically, when you choose your major, you have no idea what you really want to do. You don't know what the job really looks like. You take on this debt, you get to the job, and you're like, seriously, this is going to be my life? And yes, that is going to be your life, because every month you have to meet this obligation. Like, this is it. Enjoy it the best you can. I mean, and so sometimes you can have wiggle room. Some people might, depending upon how much debt you had to take out. But, then you get a car, and now you have rent in an expensive place, and now
you're a slave. You're a slave.
Exactly. It's about hitting that monthly nut, and that's the only thing you can do. You have zero freedom to try anything new, to do anything new, to learn anything new.
And you have to go.
It's getting worse too. It's getting worse to the extent that someone used the phrase that it's things are changing so fast we can't metabolize it. And so you have in you the ability to change, but it's like evolution, right? If an asteroid hits, you can't adjust, right? You're going extinct. Change is coming at us so quickly that if some kid was in high school now and was going to college, right? I have to remind myself, I'm talking to Matt, is going to college. I don't know what I would tell them to study necessarily, because I don't know where anything will be in 10 years. That was not always the case.
This is new. This is new.
Yeah.
You might have a recession, so the job market might not be as strong. That's a possibility, but you knew there were going to be accountants.
Right. And there won't be now. Right. And I was talking to a pharmacist. He said, we're always going to need pharmacists. I go, are you kidding? You're going to get your prescriptions sent electronically. You're going to walk up to something that looks like a Coke machine. It'll kick out your prescription.
They can count the pills more accurately than you can.
And he says, well, what about the conflicted medicines? I said, you think you can beat a computer? Right?
And all they do is read what's on the warning.
I know, and get paid $100K right now.
Yeah.
That's going to go. That's going to go very, very soon.
So what jobs won't go? That's a good question. Entry level. Talking entry level.
Electrical engineer.
Plumber.
Okay. Electrical engineer, I think, is a good one. Plumber, but that's not college.
I know.
What about nuclear? Anything nuclear related?
Yeah, they definitely need some. I definitely think in the engineering side of things, there definitely are probably a number of positions in engineering.
But engineers, a lot of engineers are not paid that well.
No, they aren't paid that well. They aren't paid that well. That's true. But there's high demand for those jobs, especially if you get into electrical engineering.
So they might be paid well then. They could become paid voluntary.
At least they'll have a job.
Right.
So
one of my students postdoc, and then he got a job offer. And he was asking me whether he should take. I said, You get a job that pays you a salary, you take it now. And he did. He did. I said, don't dark around. Now is not the time to be picking and choosing.
No, it really isn't. I like I said, this is going to be a gigantic rug pull for this younger generation, I think.
Even the guys who majored in sociology?
Yeah, even those guys. Do you know that most people in America major in business administration?
Yeah, whatever that is.
Exactly. It's nothing.
I know.
It
My
might as well
son
be
has a
sociology.
business. My son has a business degree from Cornell Hotel School.
Okay, well, but that has practical application.
I guess so. Two things. One is the years he was in college, I still had a net savings. I paid for it. Second is he's a professional musician.
Yeah, I heard he's going to be playing a.
He didn't get a $20 million Strat. He didn't get to play it. He got to inspect it and look it over. And he's there with some big swinging dicks. So he's there with some serious global players looking the Strat over, but he didn't get to play it.
That's too bad.
It is too bad.
What an opportunity that would have been.
I know. I bought him a 1735 Carlo Antonio Testore violin. That is dad. A tool. I know. The Bank of Dad, I call myself. He's just getting inheritance early.
I think that's a great idea. I think it's crazy that people are saving it until they die.
Well, someone said, you're depriving yourself of that car that you want, so that when you die, your kid will buy the car he wants. But you don't want to die with no money in the bank, and I'll tell you why. Because people say, success is dying with $10 left, right? And I go, no, because that last year, you're wondering what the hell's going to happen. You got to leave money in the bank because it's freedom. It is. You want to know you're leaving something behind because you do not want to wonder if you're going to starve to death.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. But at the same time, there are people who are like, no, now's my time. You have a job. You should be able to do these, your own life now. And I think it's a huge mistake because, it's weird. Like when you're growing up, if you don't have assets, like even a tiny injection of capital at the right time can make a huge difference.
Right.
$5,000 at the right time makes an enormous difference. And the
trick as a parent is to know how to do that without distorting the kid.
It's really, I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, I grew up poor. So for me, it worked out really well because I really didn't want to be poor. I was highly motivated to not be poor. But my kids don't have that. They don't. But they're also not, I would say they're not spoiled at all. They don't have material wants, really.
Besides violence.
That's
well, and so my other son, very entrepreneurial, which I did not see coming at all. He was so bad in high school that at one point I said to one of his teachers, the only kids in this class he's beating are crack babies.
That's a good sign of an entrepreneur, actually.
Really?
Doing school to me was like being in prison.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't great.
I hated it. I hated it every day. I mean, from the very beginning. In second grade, the principal had to pick me up from home and take me to school the whole year because I would never go. I refused to go. And by this big black principal of the school who intimidated me, and he would pull up in the driveway, wait for me to come out. I was only like a little past a mile from the school.
So you weren't ready to have a race war at that point in your life? Is that the?
I was nervous, so I was going to cooperate. I hated school.
Okay, well, he didn't even seem to hate it. He just sat there. He was a very quiet kid, and he just watched the world go by. But then he somehow grew up, and it was almost imperceivable at first. You couldn't tell, and then, but one of his best friends was a physicist with a PhD from Stanford. I'm going, this is a Mutt and Jeff pair right here. This really doesn't make sense. Said that he was always gutsy, and I go, I didn't see that in him. And I don't know why I didn't see it, but I replayed the tape and I could see little bits of it. But I wanted him to join the Navy. And that's not usually what, family with about 8 degrees between the parents.
Because you felt he needed structure and
I thought he needed some time to grow up. He needed to climb Mount Stupid for a while before going out in the world. And so my wife didn't like that idea, being a hippie from the 60s. And so she got him in a 2-year associate's degree program on hotel management, other hotel management program, at a school called Paul Smith's, which the requirement to get in is to have a parent who can write a check. And but we got there and we were at orientation week and they offered 4 majors, right? I bet you're liking the sound of this already, right? 4 majors. It's in the Adirondacks, and one was forestry, hotel management, culinary arts, and then one other, I can't remember. And orientation week, they talk to the parents. I'm listening, I go, this place is really good. This place is really good. And at one point, they're a dry campus. And someone asked one of the administrators about drinking. And the guy gave a pretty measured answer about, well, we're dry, but, sort of feel, right? We're not going to kick them out because we found a beer. And I'm sitting with the parents at a table. And one of the parents said, I didn't really like that answer. Right? Obviously, was a prude. And I said to that guy, I thought it was pretty good. I said, by the way, my son told me that pretty much everyone in the school is a pothead. I just popped out of her head. I said, so I don't think you have to worry about the alcohol part. He grew up there. It was a great program. So Paul Smith's in the Adirondacks. It's focused, pragmatic.
Teaching him a trade.
And he got out and he went straight to New York, no job. Just straight to New York. That's the gutsy part. Right? I go, wow. And then he calls me one day, he says, I got 3 job offers this week. And I don't know the other 2. The one he took was the associate director of event management at the Council on Foreign Relations.
That's impressive.
It's right across from the United Nations. It is the place where all the conspiracy theorists, which includes me, say the world's being run. His first day on the job, Madeleine Albright's shitting her pants. He's cleaning her soiled underwear the first day on the job. He talks to Nelson Mandela for 45 minutes. He meets the president of Pakistan and Iran the same day.
Wow.
They have people come in and they got guards with machine guns and shit. He tells a different story about what the council is. I think when Dulles founded it, it was evil. I think when David Rockefeller ran it, it was evil. But I think Pete Peterson ran it okay, and I think it's more neutral. I think it's really more of a...
It's gotten so big and so diluted.
20,000.
Yeah.
But I think it is a place where...
Is it not the city of London behind it?
You're giving me a Luongo tug on that one. Or Alex Craner tug.
Well, you said Rockefeller, so that's why I thought I'd ask about that.
Yeah.
Matt, any opinion on that?
That's waiting for a kid to grow up. It's waiting for the kid to grow up.
Well, and what he needed was
time.
The confidence that comes from having a specific competency in a trade. Mm-hmm. Something he could do. And so he could show up there on the job and do his job with some level of competency, and it was fine. Young men gotta have something that they can hold on to, that they can say, I can do this thing. For
the last 10 years, we destroyed that idea. Society was really tough on young men for the last 10 years.
Well, because
I think way longer than that.
But the last 10, it was devastating.
Because they put you in this plan, like through high school and college. This is why it's so great what Matt did, with this book, because, and I've experienced this, where going backwards a little bit, we're talking about corporate jobs. You've got to work at these jobs because you're so debt laden. And every Monday morning, and I know this from my own experience, every Sunday night you're miserable because you got to spend the next 5 days in the office. And you get in there and you sit down with a bunch of people that are just as miserable as you are. And all you're looking forward to is that first break at 10 o'clock and where you're going to go to lunch. That's the bright spot in your day. And then when you go home in the evening. and you're sitting around a bunch of people that are looking to like take you down or look at you as a threat to not allow you to move forward. And Matt, I think you said it last time we talked. Corporate ladder. What the fuck is that? Who came up with that? Why would you want to work like that?
Yeah, one of the things in the book I try and do is dispel a lot of the common myths about success. And the idea of climbing the ladder is a fraud. It's a fraud. And I'd start with the basic idea of, well, who built the ladder and for what purpose exactly and to whose benefit? Not yours. Not yours at all.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's like feminism, right? I think it was Dinah West opposed feminism.
Absolutely. Sure,
and it was clearly invented to get women to become slaves. I don't understand this world because it turns out I loved my job. I'm still here, but for me, heaven was sitting in my office doing what I do for a living Sunday morning.
It can happen.
It can happen.
It can happen. It can happen. And I think that, yeah, and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that all jobs are bad. And I mean, I have employees who have a job and I hope that they don't think it's evil, So I don't think all jobs are bad. And I think you can enjoy your job and a job can be meaningful and you can get a lot of people's identity ends up being revolve around their work, their job. So like it is an important thing for us, but I think, I'm not saying really anything bad about that. I'm just saying that young men are asked the wrong question. They're asked the question about basically what job you're going to have, what are you going to be when you grow up, which is cute when they're little, and they say fireman, Spider-Man, something like that.
Professional athlete.
And the truth is, what's it?
Professional athlete.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thought leader.
That's a newer answer. That's come up. That's a millennial invention, I think. Just like
short-lived too.
It's such a pathetic thing. And the other one, millennial one I like to talk about is adulting. You've heard of that?
What is that? No, I have not heard that.
Adulting. It's when people who have been infantilized their whole life, especially going up through high school and everything, and definitely in college, enter the real world, and they discover they have to show up at a certain place in the morning, relatively early, every day.
On time.
Yeah. And that's adulting. It's like when you're doing things adults do. They call it adulting.
They think that's their career, actually, being an adult.
Well, they just anytime they have to do anything that is like not kid stuff, basically, it's adulting. Doing laundry, adulting. It's a weird thing, and it just shows how infantilized these generations are now, and it's not their fault because they're so.
We did it. Yes,
I didn't do it. My kids are not like this.
Boomers. The boomers are getting a bit of a bad rap here in the sense that
they are. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's now become a pejorative, and it's not deserving of it. I'll tell you what was guaranteed to happen. The boomer generation was guaranteed to generate these big bubbles. The demographics alone were guaranteed that we were going to end up in this big mess.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that I really hate this generational divide. I think it's a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake. And yes, are the stereotypes about boomers correct? Yes. Are the stereotypes about Zoomers and millennials correct? Yes. But they aren't true. They are correct. They're valid as stereotypes, but they don't. It doesn't. It's a mistake to make that the final judgment on it. Like the most important relationships in my life, absolutely positively, have been intergenerational, unquestionably, no doubt about it.
Right.
My relationship with Doug, who's a close friend, who was my hero before I even met him.
I've never met Doug. I've known about Doug for decades, and I've never met him. One of these days I will, at some meeting or something.
I hope so. Because
you're in Uruguay, right? You're in Uruguay?
Yeah.
I told you my son lived in Uruguay for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a pretty boring place, but it's a good place to be.
He loved it.
I'm trying to move. I want to move on to Matt's compound. I'm trying to steal a half acre from
It's a
him.
cattle ranch, but you can call it a compound if you want.
The compound.
But one of the things I try and do is dispel this, actually, because young people today actually have very little association with people outside of their generation. And when they, like, when I meet people here at our house and they have their kids with them, the kids don't even feel like they should, like, this is like adult thing now, and I'm just, going to go out and do my thing. You know what I mean? So, like, it's like they're so separate. They don't have those, maybe they know kind of their grandparents, but there's no real relationship with anyone of a different generation. And so I try and explain to people how that's a gigantic mistake. They probably think the older generation, they believe in stereotypes, wants to keep them down. But in fact, they don't. They don't. I mean, I'm only 50, but when I meet somebody who's young and resourceful and like is hungry, and you could see in them, like they got something. What can I do for them? Like, how can I help? Like, let me point you in the right direction. Let me open this door for you. I'll make an introduction. I'll fund your business. Like I want to help legitimately, because you want to see people like that flourish. So, and certainly my relationship with Doug is one where it's been incredibly rewarding for me. I'm going to Azerbaijan to meet the president later this month with him. Do I really care about the president of Azerbaijan? No, but what business do I even have in the room, frankly? Only because of Doug.
How'd you meet him?
I met him by pure synchronicity. Before the financial crisis, he was always talking about Argentina in his newsletters, and I believed him, that it was coming. Sold my business in the U.S., and my daughter was 2 weeks old, and I told my wife, I said, I know this is bad timing, but I just want to go down to Argentina.
Hormones still raging.
Yeah,
Right?
it was terrible timing.
As in, like, stupid.
Yeah, no, I know, but I felt the urgency of it. I'm like, it's coming. It's coming. This is October 2007. Like, it's coming.
What did you think was coming, Matt?
Financial crisis. So, which I thought would be, I didn't know they would manage to stitch it together and keep it, dragging along this long. I'm grateful it did.
$30 trillion will buy you a lot of can kicking.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for every one of those years, honestly, that we had. But I didn't think we'd have those years. So I said, I think we need an apartment in Buenos Aires. I'm just going to go down there and check it out. And one day, looking at apartments all day, but that evening I wanted to go out for a walk. And as I walk out of the hotel, I literally run into him as he's walking down the sidewalk in front of me. That's how I actually met him. Just totally random. And actually, I've made a total jackass out of myself. I've met celebrities before. I don't care. I saw Doug there. It was such a shock. He was the reason I was there, I said, Doug Casey, you're my hero. That's what I said to him.
Oh, my God.
And I know that. And then I realized what I said. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And so I quickly apologized, and I said, I'm sorry to bother you, And he's like, no, it's okay. And then, but I, was like trying to end the conversation and let him go because I'd already embarrassed myself. And I bought an apartment, turned out to be like 6 blocks away from where he lived down there. And we moved down in December, and I got reintroduced to him by other people. And he pretends he doesn't even remember this street encounter, which I'm kind of grateful for. And then the first, anytime I'd start getting invited to these little get-togethers, cigar bar type stuff. I didn't smoke or anything, but I'd go hang out. And one of them, he said, I do this thing with these countries. I try and reform them, these dog shit countries that got nothing going for them, but they could.
They're called shitholes, according to Trump.
Yes, Trump says shitholes, Doug says dog shit. Pretty similar. Anyway, so he said, I'm going to Palau next month. Would anyone like to go? I'm like, I sold my business. I had nothing to do, So I went to Palau with him, and it was and trying to be as useful as possible. And we almost got that deal. It was very close. And yeah, and just so happened that I lived in Colorado. He spent his summers in Aspen. I'd go up on the weekend, stay with him for a couple days every summer. And yeah, I don't know. I've known since 2007. But I've known of him longer than that, but I met him in 2007.
Yeah.
I want to, I know because we're pressed for time, there's a couple things I want to cover with you guys in relation to what's going on in the world. But one thing I want to ask to add to that, Matt, because you and I, message each other pretty regularly. Back in 2007, you saw what was coming. You met with Doug and you guys started traveling around the world. And we had talked earlier in the summer. I mean, we've talked since then, but you had a sense of just instability in America, right? It was very unstable, very rocky. Where are you at right now with everything that's transpiring? And then I want to get to Charlie Kirk, and if we have time, I'd love to talk about the Middle East as well. But
okay, it's so much worse now than it was in 2007. So much worse. In 2007, we had to deal with an economic and financial problem, but which is now just a lot bigger. But now we have the backdrop of a destroyed society, and where there's tensions like literally did not exist in 2007. There wasn't racism in 2007. Sorry, it didn't really exist. There was none of this LGBT problems. None of these things existed in 2007.
It was a low basal level that could be ignored.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are always assholes and idiots around, but it wasn't a social thing. There was cohesion still. So the problem is
we elected a black president.
Of course, and the world celebrated us. I was traveling a lot when the year he was elected. People were so proud of me because he was president. It was so weird. I'm like, I didn't vote for him.
Well, I didn't vote for him either, but I do remember thinking this is an important thing. I mean, this is good. Yeah,
I voted for Ron Paul, but
I was an endorser on Ron Paul's homepage of his 2008 campaign.
Of course you were.
I was.
I believe.
No, but it turns out I was communicating with Lou Rockwell, and he said, "Send me something," and then next thing I know, it pops up on his homepage.
Awesome.
Matt, I want to finish that thought in relation to 24. Okay. I don't want to get off track of that.
Okay, I'll just say that when this economic/financial crisis hits, the fallout will be massively worse than what would have happened in 2008. I mean, it won't even be close. Like, as far as I'm concerned, and especially when you see these steps toward a much more authoritarian type of government where, you might celebrate when this law is violated when you blow up Venezuelans, but like, trust me, other laws will be violated, and whose laws it's easiest to violate? Americans. And so that scares me. And then you have, in light of it, you have all this tech stuff in the background that's coming out, and that really is concerning. So yeah, I think it's time for people to be very alert, very careful, and definitely you should own some gold. If it's really expensive, and if you don't have any, you better buy some. Not financial advice. But you're an idiot if you don't.
Would you say the same thing about silver then right now too?
The silver's very different. I think it's a lot more speculative, but it's an industrial metal. It's too useful to have only as money. That's the problem. And you can't have any real money in it. But yeah, if you can't afford gold because the price is so high, buy yourself, get some silver. But you need.
And you want some because of the divisibility, right?
Yeah.
So junk silver is a good idea to have.
If you imagine you're doing transactions, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
it's
sort of like I have a couple 100 pounds of rice. It's inexcusable in the United States to own a house with space and not have a couple 100 pounds of rice, and some Morton salt, some bouillon cubes. You won't get any nutrition out of it, but you won't be gnawing your arm off in 2 weeks.
In fact, there was a book in the 70s that was written about, basically an investment book that was all about pre-buying all the shit you normally use in a high inflation era. We're in a high inflation era. The only solution for the government is to devalue the dollar, which means You need to own stuff that is not going to get crushed when that happens.
What happens in the Bitcoin world? I know I've asked you this before, and maybe I'm just not grasping the response. So I'm going to ask it again with Dave here. All the people that are the Bitcoin influencers that are saying Bitcoin, 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 I'm okay because I have Bitcoin. How will that factor in?
Bitcoin is a big wild card. I've owned Bitcoin, unlike Dave, and I've made a lot of money on it. But I also have never been in love with Bitcoin.
The
You know,
cult.
I was in love. I did like the idea when I first bought it in 2012. Because I liked the idea of it. Like that'd be cool. So I bought $20 worth of it. I lost it, so I didn't have that original. And I bought some more, and I lost it in Mt. Gox. And then I bought, but then in 2016, I had a couple of conversations with people that Barry Siebert was one of them. You know, was running that gold or the Bitcoin fund, the first one that was traded, and it was like $600. And I said, well, as a speculation, this does make a lot of sense. At that time, it was $600. So I tried to think, okay, well, if I wanted to have this much money and where I think it's going, how much should I buy? You know, it wasn't a huge allocation of my portfolio, but it ended up becoming a big portion of my portfolio. But when it got to 19,000, I sold. You know?
You described exactly. I first turned it down at 10. I would have sold it at 50. I would have made enough money to pay for some therapy.
Yeah, but see, then I bought more. I've done this a couple times. You know, where
Okay.
I bought.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, I bought it at 600 and I sold it at 19,000.
Well, that's pretty good though. Still,
That's
I posted
And then
a
I bought
tweet
it
of a
again
guy.
and I bought it all back at 3,000 later.
I posted a tweet of a guy who said, I bought Bitcoin at 8 cents. I sold it at 50 and now it's $8. I'm feeling terrible. And I'm going, oh my God,
Yeah.
that guy's in trouble.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is that, you know, but I see it as a speculative vehicle, and when it's cheap, when it feels cheap to me, and it really feels,
Sort of sentiment wise cheap, right?
then I buy some, and when it feels expensive, I sell. So anyway, I think that the people who have Bitcoin I think that they shouldn't be so sure of themselves. And I think that there's a lot of things that have been done in the last 5 years to really damage the on and off ramps, you know, where you can essentially have Bitcoin and basically be debanked. Now I know you have the keys, you got it on your wallet, it's fine. Okay, now get it into something you can spend. Try that. Let me know how that goes, because they're pretty stringent about that. I mean, I had a long-standing Coinbase account, and they closed my account. You know, I mean, they closed mine. So, yeah, I think you have to be very careful, the on and off ramps. And unless you get somebody who says, no, actually, I'd really not pay me in dollars or yuan. I want you to pay me in Bitcoin. And I do know a couple of people who do that, but not many.
So where you and I differ, twofold. One is you are happy to live in other countries, and I feel too old for that now. So I don't really want to have to escape to another place. Second of all, we're totally on the same page on Bitcoin. The only difference is you're willing to own it and I'm not. And it's a very narrow sliver of a difference. And part of the problem is I have this great faith that the state can come down on your ass
100%.
when they decide to. Right.
Whenever they decide, like those
And
Venezuelan.
the horror is the people who think they can. That's what you're talking about. The lack of respect for the risk. Yeah, they're delusional. I respect guys like Barty Ben. I think these guys understand Bitcoin. I've done podcasts. I did a 4-on-1 podcast with hodlers. Boy, that was a pain in the ass. I get frustrated when I go to a website that says your password's wrong. And I go, I know my password's right. What you're saying is you want me to change it again. And I'm such a Luddite in that sense. The idea of having serious wealth tied up in a password-based thing is so anathema to who I am. So I just don't have it in me. I think I could imagine getting it in me. I can imagine it, but it's going to take some act of God of some kind to swing me over. Since I am up to my ass in gold, I figure
Right.
I'm okay.
Yeah, and I mean the best case scenario for Bitcoin is that it is a better version of gold. Well, until that's clear, how about owning gold?
Or both.
Yeah, you can have
Yeah.
both. Yeah. But the other thing is that if you read Roger Ver's, I know this is somewhat controversial, but Roger Ver's book, Hijacking Bitcoin, not a good story. It does raise a lot of concerns
I haven't
about
read that book. I haven't read that.
Bitcoin. The core got infiltrated by certain people with different financial interests and probably related to the security services who have handicapped it in such a way that it no longer works in transactions. Its only real use is as a reserve asset like gold.
Yes, not a currency.
Well, that's
It's
what
not
we
a
were
currency.
talking. We were talking with Aaron Day, Dave. I mean, that's because Aaron Day
Yeah,
he's an
Aaron-
advocate for Roger Ver.
Aaron was. I wanted to be on with Aaron because I watched
Smart.
some of Aaron and said, okay, this yeah, and he really he grasped some of the hodlers think stuff he says is not right, but I'm okay with that. You can be wrong some of the time and still be okay in my book.
I want to, Matt, you said perfect segue where you're going with this, with the tech companies and the financial instruments that they're building to tighten the noose.
They terrify me, tech companies. The tech companies terrify me.
Well, in your opinion, both of you guys, is this? I mean, the government always capitalizes. They don't let a crisis go to waste. So with Charlie Kirk being killed, now it seems like they're utilizing this to crack down even further. And let me also ask, do you believe the narratives that they're putting out there right now? And if not, what do you think is
What
going
narrative?
on?
Be more precise. What narrative?
That it was this lone wolf guy with the trans roommate or
I'll let
boyfriend
Matt
or whatever
go
that
first,
is.
because I bet I can outdo him.
bet
I'll let
you
Matt
can
go first.
There is zero evidence that I have seen that their narrative has any merit whatsoever. Zero.
Check. What do you think happened?
I don't know, and I don't get into that because I can't know, and then it feels like. But what I do know is I watch the narrative. They're telling you this is the story. They're saying it wasn't just a shot at Charlie; it was a shot at America. We're talking about the enemy within. Get in front of all the generals. You talk about. I mean, I see that narrative as plain as day, and if you don't see how blowing up Venezuelan boats also falls within that same view of the world that will come back on Americans, not just the Antifa shitheads, but like just beat Americans, then you're deluding yourself.
Dave?
There are several theories that are usable in this model. One is it's the lone shooter, and I totally agree. I don't think that narrative. I put about a 0.1% probability on that. I, by the way, put a 0.1% probability that any of these lone shooters are legitimate narratives. I think they're all. I think you could go all the way back to Columbine and probably find that the Columbine story was wrong.
Yep.
The narrative number two that I think is the odds-on highest probability narrative is that Israel took him out because he went off the reservation. And the fact that Netanyahu's had to repeatedly deny it. And so I think that's a reasonable, if you made me put money on, one of these betting apps and win or lose, that would be my bet. There is a third narrative that he was set up to be a martyr, and that he's serving the purpose as a martyr for something that Matt's already sort of hinted at, that there's a whole plot line here going on.
Well, that second and third one could be the same.
They're pretty close, aren't they? But I'm not sure Israel wanted a martyr. I think Israel wanted the guy to shut up, and he was saying some pretty bad stuff. But there's other guys saying bad stuff weren't getting capped. So you hear how effective he was. Not to piss off Charlie fans, but I thought he was more grifter than reality. Until
he did connect with the kids.
He did.
My kids came in my office right away when it happened and showed me. So like I
They
see
knew.
clips of him, but they were aware. You know, not even like fans, but they were like they were the market for him, and they thought he was a good guy. Didn't really follow him, you know, directly. But I think, yeah, I'll say this: if you watch the video of the aftermath, not like the action right after, although that's suspicious, but once the crowd is cleared away, and you watch what the security team is doing, it's
fishy.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
This is not the way a crime scene is handled.
There wasn't even any yellow tape or anything. There was nothing. There was nothing.
No,
and they also dug up the yard and repoured the concrete. Oh God! It's like by the way, I'm affiliated with University Renovations, and you don't do a renovation 4 days later.
Yeah, it's for the moment.
Yeah, after a major crime, after a major crime scene occurs.
And they've already wrapped it up. They're done now. So
well, and this is when Trump was at the memorial saying the official story that it was clear, this is it. There wasn't any ambiguity in his statements about it. But again, the bullets were fired at America, and the enemy within is the problem.
Right. And my email box is filled with TPUSA fundraisers. So it is up to my eyeballs.
So okay, so what are you? Where do you think now with Turning Point? What they've done since then, with Erica being appointed CEO, and then the pyrotechnic. To me, it was like a concert at the Cardinal Stadium. Quote the memorial, but it looked like a concert, and
it just looked gross. It looked gross.
I agree. It's like they're carving. You know what they're carving up? They're carving up the cash pie right now between the inner circle to keep this thing going. And the statement, Dave, let me just add one more thing. The statement by Andrew Colvett saying that the bullet didn't exit and God was protecting everybody else around it.
Oh my fucking Lord, Jesus Christ!
Did you see that, Dave?
Listen, I have more faith in God than that. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be late. No, he'd stop the bullet right here instead of right in here.
Here, I'm going to take it right to the hoop. The story that I'm tracking, and I can't refute it, and it just keeps growing in my skull. You're going to love this, Mike. You've seen the foreshadowing of this. You can't learn anything about Charlie Kirk or Erica Kirk. There's no information about their origin stories. They are really ghosts. And Charlie, you can find out that he was said to be rude in high school, right? Stuff like that. You can't even figure out what his family's names are. Neither side of that family was at the memorial service. Boot up. This is, no comment from either side of that family. This God-loving, family-oriented, and yet there's no parents, no sibs, no nothing, who are speaking up and being interviewed. And even if they say, look, it's just breaking my heart, and we'll talk about it later, something like that. Now, go on Google. People listening to this podcast, stop it for a second, go on Google, and search Charlie Kirk's children. Do it right now, boys.
You only see the backs of them.
Matt, you can share if you want. If you pull it up, if you pull it up, Matt, you can share the screen.
You never see their faces. Now, I've said that, and people say, well, he's a very, public guy and blah, 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 and therefore a prudent parent would not let his kids see their faces. I'm going, well, let's start with this. Those photos were taken by somebody else. Let's start with that. They weren't selfies. You'll notice in some of them, their faces are covered with Photoshop.
Yeah, I'll share this.
Find a face. Notice the faces are completely covered. Oh, look to the left center. Look, that's a Photoshop hat right over her face, whatever that is. There's videos of Charlie's kid running up to him on stage, but it's from the back.
That was Fox News, yeah.
Yeah, it's from the back. This is a family you're in public, you're walking down the street, you're at the grocery store, or you're bringing your kids to all these events that they're doing day after day after day after day. And people are photographing you because they adore you. There's no pictures of the kids' faces. The kids are ghosts.
Well, I know Mama seems to have a lot of free time on her hands these days.
Well, so here's where Mama gets interesting. What we know about Mama is that she was supposedly independently wealthy when she met Charlie.
Yeah, I heard that.
She ran a company when she was 17 or 18 in Romania having to do with children. Now, what I will tell you is my 3 years of studying trafficking is that the Eastern Bloc is a hub of child trafficking, and she has been accused of it. Here's my wild ass theory. I think, and this could just be proven to be so wrong, and someone's going to rip my face off. I think Charlie and Erica have been created. And what does created mean? They literally could be MK Ultra products. And they don't have parents because they've been created. And their kids' faces aren't showing because you can't afford to have kids' faces running around who then all of a sudden make it, wait a minute, that's not his kid. A Candace Owens moment or something. Candace Owens I would think would know this if this were true. I'm not hearing it from her.
Yeah, her parents were disclosed because they were associated with the Department of Defense or Lockheed. He worked for Lockheed in Israel.
Erica's.
Erica's.
Right. Now watch Erica's speech at the memorial service. And you watch it, and it seems so fraudulent to me.
Yeah.
And others have said this. I mean, you go, this, and then you see pictures of her. If your wife had been assassinated, how long would it take before you ever smiled?
Yeah, I'm not going to appear on TV. Sorry, at all. Just leave
at
me
all. And her smiles look so authentic. And
yeah, she's happy. She's living her best life.
She seems happy. Yeah,
she's living her best life.
But you watch her memorial speech, and then I see a body language expert take the speech and analyze it. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be interesting. And every step of the way, he talked about how authentic it was. And I'm going, it's anything but authentic looking. But I'm going, but this guy's an expert. But then I have a habit of reading comment sections. And there are tons. And the comments were all how great it is that this guy did this really honest, unbiased, authentic analysis of this speech. They were supporting him.
Yeah.
They were supporting him. And it kept using unbiased, authentic, wonderful. There were statements about grieving's different, and therefore I've been saying, oh, my brother died, and blah, blah, blah. The entire comment section was dominated by trying to dismiss that idea that her speech was inauthentic. And then I'm looking at the guy, I'm going, okay, dude, if you're an expert, tell me how hard it would be for you if you were her handler to sit her ass down for a couple hours and put the camera on her and say, here's how you handle this. They go, no, don't move your fist like this. That shows you're not grieving. Do this. And if you watch her speech, it looks so orchestrated.
Yeah, she looks like a bad actress.
A bad actress. And if you watch, you go, there's no chance that the authentic emotion wouldn't be popping out. It would be popping out left and right.
If you've ever been someone close to you dies suddenly and unexpectedly and tragically, I have, it fucks you up. Like,
I couldn't give that speech if my dog died.
But they push back on you. But they push back and say, "Oh, Dave and Matt, you're insensitive. Everybody responds differently."
Yes,
that's what's killing me about this right now. It's like, I think back. Well, I think back to like COVID, and the mask versus the non-mask, right? And then the Israel, you're an anti-Semite if you question it. And then with this right now, if you dare question any of this and say what you two have just said. Oh, Matt and Dave, you don't know. She's grieving internally.
I don't know. And I don't know.
Now, do you know where they met?
I agree with you two, by the way. I agree with you two, by the way, but I just think it's funny how the right is like bullying people for even questioning any of this right now.
That's a critical answer Matt just gave. They met in Israel.
Oh, I didn't mean to talk over you, Matt. Sorry.
That's okay. No, yeah, that's
They
what
met. They met in Israel.
And it was kind of facilitated, at least in part, by Trump, was it not?
Trump has ties to both of them. Legal. So I'm still trying to figure out Trump. Trump is.
Why? If
just curiosity. Just curiosity.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so let's say you wanted to destroy America. What would you do?
Oh, all the shit we're doing. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
No. But that goes back through Biden, and that goes all the way back.
Yeah, but you could,
right?
Of course, but you could just say, since this guy's been in charge, just what he's done, the way he's done it. Okay, tariffs, you can do tariffs, fine, but make tariffs so that someone has an idea of what those tariffs are somewhere, so that you could actually still engage in global commerce. But no.
I can defend tariffs.
Yes, absolutely, but I can't defend this.
Back and forth. And
no one knows. I mean, honestly, I have a friend in China. I ask him, he has no idea. He says, I can't tell you because steel is tariffed at a different rate. The product contains steel. I don't know how they're going to treat it at the border. I mean, there's so much confusion.
Someone who was it? Someone did an analysis of the tariff, the damage it's going to do to American industry because of the supply chain. And I go, God, I really haven't thought that through. Now, the defensive tariff, here's an interesting. So I did a podcast with a guy from The Economist, Tony Nash. I had no idea how big he was at The Economist. And I just yakking away with him, right? But he basically points out, he said there are three groups to pay for tariffs. There's the supplier, the importer, and the consumer. And he says, if you actually look at what tariffs do, it usually gets absorbed by the first two. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make it to the consumer. So first and foremost, what it'll do is shrink profit margins, which will pop this bubble, right? It'll do that. But the other thing is, if you really collected the tariffs, and then you used it as a way to not collect taxes elsewhere, you are getting a bunch of people to pay your taxes for you.
Yep.
And I'd be up with that. But here's the deal. We're not going to get a tax break elsewhere. And so it's just...
And again, there's no clarity whatsoever around policy, and that is, I have to imagine it's by design, because Besant's not an idiot. Lutnick is...
I do not like Lutnick.
Don't like him. I have grave concerns about him, but he certainly knows how to list the terms of a deal. No doubt about
stupid. That. He's not stupid.
No, and yet no one knows. I mean, what I'm saying, really, no one knows. You look at like tractor, manufacturers in Canada trying to get stuff to the U.S. and vice versa, and they use long-term service contracts for them, but they don't know in the future. What about how can a service agreement work with the tariffs? Can we get replacement parts even? I mean, it stops commerce. Global commerce is slowing down. It's like COVID levels at this stage.
Yeah, I thought my initial, and Mike will tell you, I was optimistic.
I was never optimistic.
I thought about this part too. I thought I was aggressive trying to do something about this problem.
I thought he was trying to burst the bubble so that it would then be coming out. Yeah. No, but so that we'd be pulling out like Reagan, for example, had a tough first couple of years. My opinion, by the way, whoever was president from 80 to 88 was going to be riding a boom. It didn't have to be Reagan. Now, Reagan did some important stuff, but we were ready to start a boom, period. It was locked and loaded and ready to go. Interest rates, demographics, everything said the boom was about to start. I think Trump, I thought he was trying to blow up the economy, blow up the equity markets and stuff so that he could then pull us out in time to benefit from it.
Yeah, but
it's persisting. It's persisting.
Right after he announced the tariffs, markets respond poorly. He's like, that's why he gets the taco, right?
Right.
So
Now, let me tell you some of the chaos that's been created. And I want to talk about Matt's book because it's important, even though I haven't read it. I know it's in it. I kind of know what's in it. But colleges have been thrown into chaos. And it's one thing to throw a fastball pass rush in. We needed fastball pass rush in, no question about it. I just heard today that Harvard's chemistry department, which is an elite chemistry department, which typically has an entering graduate class of 40, right? And these kids are all getting jobs in corporate settings, and they're functional members of society. Their projected entering class coming this year, their recruiting class is going to be 5 to 8.
What?
Yes.
That's wild.
5 to 8. They're essentially going to be taking no students because we have no idea what's happening. And I don't have a problem if you say, look, all federal funding is going to be cut in half over the next 5 years. We can adjust to that.
Yep.
We
But
can't
instead-
adjust to the federal funding's gone right now. So
Or
I've
it
got
might- or it might not be.
I've got
Right?
colleagues who we don't know. Right.
That's the
The
thing.
university's telling us to spend, even though I don't think the money's flowing yet.
But see,
Now-
this ambiguity is key.
I
It's just like the
know, I
tariffs.
know,
It's
I
basically it's
know,
to
I
try and
know.
create chaos.
Hayek said something to the effect that you can handle arbitrary and capricious rules as long as they're not changing.
As long as you know what they are.
Right. You can work around them.
So is this being done by design then, Matt?
I don't know.
This whole I never had any optimism when he got elected back in. I never had any hope for any of this Marvel, Avenger, Maha,
But
Elon.
I thought Doge. I was optimistic about Doge because that was a radical step that showed much promise. So I was enthusiastic about that, but obviously that turned to nothing, just like everything else.
And using serious code writers to find the waste was so brilliant sounding, right? When that first showed up, I'm going, big balls, right? Big balls. I'm going, get a couple of code heads in there, track the spending, figure out where it's all going, right? Dumping USAID, well, they didn't dump it. They moved it over to the State Department. They said they dumped FEMA. Next thing I know, Pam Bondi is talking about FEMA getting on a task. I go, wait a minute, you dumped it. FEMA's a $29 billion waste of money. And it is no value. FEMA is no value. And I know a woman who's had to work with FEMA. She says no
negative.
value.
Negative.
Negative value. She has to train. She does a not-for-profit organizer of other not-for-profits. She said, we have to train our people to watch for FEMA people to avoid them. That's how bad it is. They killed so many people in Katrina. And they didn't dump FEMA. And so
Well, they're hiring back at the IRS. They're bringing all these people back that were either laid off or let go, and they're bringing them back. And that's what also with this federal government shutdown. Now that you're seeing out there that they're going to start laying off federal workers. I mean, I don't know what that's all about.
The question is if he lays them off or if he actually cuts programs completely, that then people lose their jobs because those programs are cut. That'll be the difference. It'll tell you a lot more about how serious he is.
Yeah, you got to cut programs if you're going to do it. You can't just lay off. It's too slow and too weird. I think you wipe out whole divisions.
What's the future?
That's what corporate America does.
So this is his take two for Doge. If he doesn't do it, it tells us something because he has a chance to.
What's a future turning point?
I mean, it's a dissident gathering organization, just like all political organizations are, and it's going to try and corral people as long as it possibly can maintain some credibility.
Like Jim and Tammy
It's
Faye
gonna die, in
Baker.
my opinion.
Jim and Tammy
It's
Faye
gonna die.
Baker. Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. Keep the money coming in for as long as you can.
I mean, there's the grift part of it, but the real purpose of the organization, of every political organization, is to round up the dissidents and make sure they're moving in an acceptable direction. So
Yeah, there are not a lot of think tanks out there that don't have some purpose that is described roughly by that.
Well,
I think TPUSA is gone. I think it was one of these things where it's like where Charlie was unique. Forget about whether he was MK Ultra, but the horror was when they were chattering about putting Ben Shapiro in.
Oh, no kidding. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was
Oh,
like,
just
this. I know.
for all I know, they were just doing it to gaslight us or something,
I
because
think so,
that
yeah.
was just that was
They're like, they're gonna love
unbelievable.
this.
Oh yeah. It's like that my theory on Epstein when he got killed. His body
Yeah.
didn't look like Epstein.
Yeah, it
It
was
did not
Hillary's
look like
brother.
him. Hillary's brother, and Hillary's brother had died 2 weeks earlier, and there was no news about it to speak of. And I'm going, oh, some goddamn intelligence guys had a party that day when they thought of that plan. Holy moly, that was great. Yeah, I got to take my hat off to the guys who thought of that one.
Yeah, it was clever.
And
It's funny
it was
too.
very clever. It is funny, and of all the families to do it to, the Clintons are
Yeah,
certainly
it's
deserving.
like let's make sure we get a shot of the body as he's being rolled out so that she'll see it.
Right.
She'll know. What
I did a Zoom call. I was on a Zoom call with a guy named Tony Schaffer, who's legitimate big swinging dick intelligence guy. Got booted because he was too outspoken. He's still outspoken. At the very end, I said, Tony, I'm interested in the role of trafficking in geopolitics. I really do believe the world's being controlled by the compromat thing. The world leaders are all screwed. They're all compromised. And he starts talking about Epstein. I go, let me ask you a simple question. Mike has heard this. I said, did the Clinton Foundation traffic children? He said, oh, absolutely. You know how many people's heads would explode hearing that? And this guy was with Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz and these guys. This guy was big. And he said, oh, absolutely. Now, I knew that was true. The data
because of the Clinton Foundation person that got arrested in Haiti, right? That was
Silsby, Laura Silsby,
yeah.
Silsby, right.
I mean,
And then
public information.
do you remember what she became? She worked for Amber Alert.
Oh, is that what it is? That's funny.
She worked for Amber Alert. I'm going, oh, you put a trafficker in charge of Amber Alert.
Did she get first notice?
Well,
and then they put the world's most famous Satanist in charge of the school system in Ukraine.
Well,
The world's most famous Satanist.
who was the Israeli guy in Vegas? That just got sent back to Israel. He got arrested, but they let him go and deported him back to Israel.
He's not a unique case.
Not a unique I know case. We're running out of time here, so I'll try to make it short for you guys. But what is the future of Israel, in your view, in relation to what's going on in Gaza right now, and then the talk of pressing forward to Iran?
Well, I'm not a religious person, but from the religious perspective, there's a full-on push to cause end times, legitimately, and part of it is all the nations turn against Israel. All the nations must turn against Israel, and then their Messiah comes and bails them out. So part of it is to bring it in. They have to do something that's so despicable that everyone will hate them. Why do they allow this stuff? Why do they allow the legitimate anti-Semitism on Twitter now? It was impossible to do 20 months ago. I mean, remember Kanye? Remember the little things Kanye did? He was noticing, that all the people on his contract, were all Jews. That's all he's saying. Banished. Lose his $1 billion Adidas deal. Gone. Now look on Twitter. These algorithms, it's not an accident. This isn't organically showing up. And everybody, and this is why I'm hesitant to go, I think it's an array of the operation, because it just plays into this thing that we are now supposed to hate Israel, according to them.
According to Israel?
Yes.
Okay.
Biblical prophecy, all the nations.
So the idea is, therefore, they're setting themselves up to be able to do the ultimate move, which, by the way, becomes nuclear state issue, things like that.
Well, they think their Messiah's going to show up, but bail them out.
That's Ben Shapiro. I'm a little less dark than that. Did me on that one.
They already slaughtered the perfect red heifer in front of the. Did you know that?
I know. I did. I did.
This is what they're doing. It's weird.
One of the dilemmas we face. So there's sort of three layers to me to talk about Israel. One is, and Mike is my witness. I wouldn't talk about Israel at all until fairly recently. You don't blame Jews. They're all over the world your neighbors are Jewish. You blame Israel, but carefully, because there's a lot of good people in Israel. You hammer Netanyahu like there's no tomorrow, right? So you really have to work up the food chain and get to the people who are really deserving of the scorn.
The problem is there is a large, the popular vote in Israel about the actions in Gaza, it's
really heterogeneous.
It's really high.
Yeah.
So whatever is happening, there's broad public support for it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I'm not saying there's not an active, like really totally against it, but and of course they're subject to propaganda too, big time. And so who knows how much that has influenced the way that the general public there, how terrified the state they must be in, where they feel like this is a good answer. But it's, I don't think it's like one man. I mean, it is cabinet. It's their.
Well, but Netanyahu, because I know, I just use Netanyahu as like the target. He's the bullseye
it's not
for my
scorn or a racial thing, though, or like I don't.
Right.
Like I care nothing about that.
Do you think, therefore, they want the United States to turn against them?
Yes.
Is that the model? Okay, I've not heard this.
I mean, no, the biblical version of it is just all the nations of the world turn against Israel.
And then they riot, and then something happens bigly.
I mean, you saw Netanyahu in the United Nations. They must, for the people who take the end time prophecy stuff really seriously, they must be going, we're doing it. It's working. When everyone walks out of the UN when he's about to speak.
His 4-minute standing ovations drive me nuts. His 57 standing ovations in one speech drive me nuts.
Well, yeah, that's not him. That's the grifting, awful.
That's our conference.
Yes.
Yeah, that's us.
Which is why
that's us.
Did
you watch Tucker put the hammer to Israel yesterday?
I didn't see that one, but I've seen him do it a couple of times, and he's
definitely he did a big one. Jeff Sachs interview, and he prefaced it with a 20-minute hammer job on Israel, and he really went at him. So you want to watch?
Doesn't Tucker wear the Kabbalah bracelet?
I don't know. I don't even know what a Kabbalah bracelet is.
So, you can Google it. So just a red cloth bracelet, like thread.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch.
Did you ever hear Tucker talk about how he was reading the Talmud, and that he really had a lot of respect for Noahide laws?
No, I have not heard this.
You should. It's out there.
There's a lot out there just for the record.
But this has been since he's been on his own.
It's a biggie.
Yeah. Supporter of Noahide laws, really?
Boy, if he turns out to be on the wrong team.
Of course he's on the wrong team.
I'd like to think there are people on the right team out there.
There are. You are, but nobody who is elevated
of consequence.
You wouldn't be. I don't know why you would think that the world leaders are all compromised, but that the media heads are not.
Well, he is kind of independent media, at least.
Is he? Who found it?
Well, yeah, no. I recognize he's not independent if he's not independent. I was thinking of as independent. Jeff Sachs.
Jeff Sachs is like a
Max Blumenthal.
Well, listen, I'm not saying Max Blumenthal is, I think, probably totally legit. Jeff Sachs is a globalist. So
definitely.
Like he says things that I totally agree with him, but his solution to the problem is not good for humanity.
Right.
Candace Owens?
Mearsheimer?
He's just a geopolitical realist.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's his shtick his whole life. I think, but he's also not like really elevated. Like he's not put out there, and
Yeah, he's in my mind.
Candace Owens.
Well, it's weird how she got fixed up with royalty, who was longtime friends with Tate. That's weird.
Megyn Kelly.
I don't trust any of them.
Megan,
I don't trust any of them.
I'm with you. I'm just throwing names out because I want to.
I don't trust Megan.
No, of course not. I think she's super smart and very pretty, but I don't trust
Trash
any.
talks now. Trash talks well.
Yeah, well, she's smart.
Very,
She's good. Good on her.
very pretty for her age too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, listen, you do not, and the whole, like, you do. I had a friend a long time ago who told me, Matt, there isn't anybody who rises to to a level of public notoriety who is not
Cleared.
compromised, co-opted, bought off, in on it, whatever you want to say. And as you've gone down the very dark depths you've gone down, you see the power of that. And I think that I don't know why there would be, the exceptions exist temporarily as a way to corral dissidents.
Greenwald.
Why do they never release the actual, all of the stuff that Snowden had? Where is it? We don't even get to see it. It had to go through Twitter, just look at it. We'll give you this little piece. He was just like,
where are all the J6 tapes? Let's start with that one. Why did no one release the J6 tapes? A lot of people had them, including Tucker, or at least Fox had them. I've been trying to figure out if Tucker necessarily had him.
His producers had it.
Okay, but his producers may not be. It's complicated. I'm trying to be optimistic.
Well, but I think you can be optimistic. There's plenty of things to be optimistic about, but just none of these people that are raised up around us who say nice things are, you should be optimistic about them. I mean, you can be optimistic about, your own life, the things that you do, the things you have control over.
Right.
Like, my life's great. I'm not worried.
Well, mine is too.
Fine. So it's fine. But I mean, you see this PSYOP stuff. It's always and there are a couple of almost archetypes that these people fit in, and it works every time. And it's just it's amazing to me that people get caught up in it. And I wanted to too. Like when I hear Tucker do his man go, it's just the verbal skills are so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so impressive. I'm jealous. I really wish I could speak like that. I could, it gets worse as I get older. But I mean, so I like it, but you can't ignore these obvious things, and he tells you, I'm reading the Talmud. This Noahide law stuff is I think I agree with it. That's what he said. I'll see if I can find the clip and I'll send it to you. Like that I'm going, you're reading the Talmud?
Well, that could be a scholarly approach, right? If you're trying to understand something, you're steel manning.
I mean, why would you go to Talmud and why not just, read the Torah?
I don't know. You're talking to the wrong guy. That question I can't answer from total lack of knowledge. Wow.
He is entertaining, and in the meantime, I'll still pay attention to him. But I also,
You burst Dave's bubble, Matt. You burst his bubble.
It's like watching professional wrestling.
It is. That's all it is. And it's Jones Plantation. Just got to remember. Jones Plantation. Do you see the movie, Dave? Jones Plantation? Jones Plantation?
Is that about Jonestown?
No. It's basically a movie that basically is about a slave plantation where they basically explain how the political parties work.
Interesting.
Subtly, it's subtle enough so that somebody might go, that kind of reminds me of. It's a good movie.
Right. Yeah. Jones Plantation. Okay. So I'm really nervous about the fact that when we do get the next correction, and they always come, the idea that the perpetual elevation of the unsustainable is such an absurd concept, and that every other downturn, we at least started euphoric, and so some of the downturn was to tear away the euphoria. We're starting pissed off on this one, so that's why this is going to be worse than ever model makes sense to me, because I think we're starting it pissed off, and you start pissed off, then lose your job and lose half your wealth, and I mean that
If
you
you're
get
lucky, it's
real
half.
mad.
If you're lucky,
Yeah, I
it's half.
know.
I mean,
I know.
people need to read about the Great Depression. And if you don't like reading history, just go reread Grapes of Wrath to understand
Right,
how
right.
awful it actually can be. And Doug has always referred to this as the Greater Depression. Of course, it's taken longer than he expected, but I think he's right.
And I also have this urge. I have this urge for it to kind of get started, even though you make the argument as long as we can perpetuate it, it's years that we get. But it seems to me that time is my enemy in some sense. I will feel safer when I have weathered.
Sorry, my
Which has
camera went
happened.
off. My
Oh.
camera went off.
I will
It's
feel
okay.
safer when I have weathered the shitstorm and not been killed by it. So the
Well-
fact that it's in our future is what's got my attention.
The problem is, let me see if I can get a different camera on. The problem is that, I don't know if that'll work or not. I'll keep talking. But the problem is that these situations, really unpredictable things can come out of them. And it's
I
not
know, they're
just not an economic
emergent.
reconciliation. You could have French Revolution. I mean,
Right.
you really don't know. I mean, it was an economic problem that got them there.
Right.
know?
2000 was an economic problem. 2007 and 9 was a mix, and the next one could be just holy hell.
Just because the social fabric is gone.
I know. I
And-
want to
and-
survive that and know that I survived it.
Yeah. So the thing is that being eager for that is kind of
I know.
very
Quirky.
like in a way I get it, because I'm like, you hope that on the other side of it there's reasonableness, there's normalcy, like there's a price discovery function in the market, but it could be there might not be a market for a while. I mean,
Right.
there might not be a return to normalcy. I mean, this is just all a continuation of COVID and all that too. This when we moved down here, and my thought then, my wife asked me, she goes, "Well, how long do you think what you think is going to happen? How long do you think it'll last?" It's like 20 years. So that was 3 years ago. I feel like to get on the other side where I really feel like it won't be fast. I mean, there'll be parts of it that'll be really negative fast, but the resolution
Yeah.
won't.
But has the clock even started yet from that?
Oh, yes.
So you think we're already potentially 3 into 20?
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you didn't see the writing on the wall with COVID, like this is the same. This is the same thing. I mean, I know that, there's well, I don't know if I want to bring that up. But I'll just say that, to me, the state's actions, this is a continuation of the state's actions. What we saw miraculously the whole world do during COVID, and, what we see happening around the world right now with wars everywhere, growing everywhere.
Another boat got blown up since we started talking, by the way.
Oh, and I'm sure people are cheering it, like, we got them.
I saw somebody wrote in a thread saying maybe this will distract the United States from the Middle East and Russia if they're focusing on Venezuela. And it might not be a bad thing.
I think when we start bombing Iran again, I don't think that, I think people are going to be very focused on it again.
That will have my attention, that's for damn sure.
Well, and I think they're setting it up for it. I mean,
I know.
so I think it could be soon. It would be within 2 weeks, I think, if it's going to happen.
Iran, you think, within 2 weeks?
Yeah. You don't stage all those assets over there, and
Let
You
them
know,
sit.
yeah, I mean, you don't listen to what anyone says. You look at the movement of military logistics, that tells the most truth. So I got to go in a minute, so I'm going to plug my book a little bit, okay?
Yeah, Matt, yeah, please.
All right, so the book is called The Preparation. It was, the idea around it was fundamentally is what you ought to do. You want me to hold it up? Yeah. Okay. There you go. The subtitle is actually, it's not on the front page because you don't want to embarrass an 18-year-old, but they like the subtitle, which is How to Become Competent, Confident, and Dangerous. And the idea is, Doug's long had this idea in his head that his college was a misallocation of time and capital, and he went to Georgetown. You know, I'm a college dropout. He's a highly educated person, and he regrets. You can watch that old Donahue video of him, and he talks about it then in 1980 as it being a waste of his time and capital. The problem is that there aren't any good options for young people. You have three choices, really. Structured, you can join the military, you can go to trade school, or you go to college. And not to say there's anything wrong with any of those options. Like I joined the Army National Guard to pay for my college, even though I dropped out. So there's nothing really wrong with any of those things. But those are their only choices. And all of those choices, the worst part about all of them is the promise of them is that it gets you to a point where hopefully you can pay your own rent. I mean, that's really the promise of it. So, and I think that is a silly objective, actually, you know, to hold out this possibility of, you know, not financial independence even, but just the ability to support yourself individually. I think that doesn't get you there. And that part of that is because when Doug first pitched me on writing this book was 12 years ago, and he wanted to call it Renaissance Man. And I asked him what it was about, and he said, well, you know, the three most important verbs in every language are be, do, and have. And I want the book to be about that. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. But essentially, this is what it is. We're motivated by have. We want to have a nice car. You want to have a $20 million violin. You know, you want to have a beautiful spouse or whatever. Have is the thing that people are focused on, especially with social media and our consumer culture. It's a huge thing. The problem is that nobody even ever tells a kid that have is a byproduct of doing things. That's how you have stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having stuff. I have lots of shit. I like stuff. But doing is how you get there. And doing is the operative. And that is very empowering to a young man in particular because they have lots of energy, virtually unlimited energy, and no liability. And if you tell them the key to success for you would be to do, and here is specifically what you ought to do. And that's what we do. We lay out exactly what they ought to do over the course of 4 years, again, assuming we're competing with college. However, we tell them the most important thing is be. It's be. That's actually all that really matters. The do is the operative. It's just something you can do right now. Be is something that you need to think about. You need to have that in the back of your mind. And we give them a structure for thinking about it. We introduce them to the ancient virtues. We show them what a worthwhile pursuit is. It's not a job that can pay your rent. That's not a worthwhile pursuit. Virtues are a worthwhile pursuit. Becoming a good man, becoming the man you want to become is absolutely a worthwhile pursuit. And that's the question we should ask young men instead of what are you going to do when you grow up? And it's funny, you know, we talk about this when you ask kids when they're little what they want to be, and they will say these things like astronaut or Spider-Man. They're actually telling you virtues as they understand them, embodied, you know, and the fireman is courageous, right? So they're closer to the right answer at that stage. But when they get older, we want them to be very practical because we want the goal is so that you can pay your own rent. And so the virtues are not really so relevant. And we just say, accounting is good for you. You should do that, secure position. So the question we should ask young men is what kind of man do you want to become? Get them thinking about that. And the first half of the book dispels a lot of myths about the way the world works. There's a lot of lies, or assumptions at least, about how the world works. And I don't know any remarkably successful person, and I'm very lucky. I've gotten to know a lot of very successful people, people that I grew up poor white trash in Iowa, okay? I never would have imagined that I would know the kind of people that I know, that are friends of mine. But none of them became successful in any way that you would describe, that you would imagine that is the path to success. None of them. It's not how it was done. And Doug is like the epitome in my mind because he's as I talk about in the book, he's like the guy from the Dos Equis beer commercials. You know, he's the most interesting man in the world. I mean, he's done everything. I mean, he's done things you wouldn't even imagine. He's lived an extraordinary life, and he's done that because he has actually always been oriented to be. He's like, his biggest obsession is actually human development. Like, what's possible with a man? What's possible? What could they be? So anyway, so the first part of the book's about that. We talk about economics. We explain what I think. Well, Dave, you might not know this about, but the thing that got me off the fence to write the book with Doug was finally when my son was 17, coming on 18, and I could see in him a lot of anxiety and uncertainty about what to do. He didn't grow up in a household where, you know, I said college is the key to success because that's how I found success. You know, I didn't propagandize one way or another about it, but so I think that actually made it harder for him because he's like, well, I have no idea what to do now. But when I could see and kind of feel that in him, then I called Doug up and I said, let's flush this out a little bit more, this thing you've been talking about. You know, so what would be a good allocation of time and capital? And my son for the last 2 years has been our guinea pig in it, and he has done crazy shit. He's done amazing things. I mean, Matt Bracken recommended this sailing adventure where he became a qualified crewman on a sailboat, learning around the Falkland Islands and sailing through the Strait of Magellan. He can fly a plane. He's an EMT. He's worked on wildfires. He was apprenticed to a gaucho here for 3 months, where he learned to shoe horses, raise and treat cattle, fix fences, drive tractors, do all that shit. And along the way, the academics are there because most of the best courses are available for free or almost free online. MIT's entire catalog's for free online. Lots of Yale's catalogs for free online. And some for $12 a month, you can get, great courses. There's a lot of really good ones in there. So you don't skip on any of the academics. That's layered in there too. And essentially what we do is we outline 16 specific cycles or quarters for someone to follow, like taking 4 years. And the way they're structured is that there's an anchor course. This is kind of an adventure thing. This is like that sailing thing was for Max. It's learning to fly. Get his pilot's license was another one for Max. Doing the gaucho thing was another. The EMT thing was another. There's also one, there's this great, my favorite city in the world is Florence, Italy. There's a cooking school there. You go, you live in there for a month. You have Italian classes. You learn to really cook really good Italian. And while you're there, the academic work, of course, is related to all that you're surrounded with. So that you go from this, instead of college is all abstraction, except for when you're doing lab work, I get it when you're doing chemistry and stuff like that. There's lab work, but most of college is abstraction. Most of learning is abstraction. You can actually see it around you, and it has relevance to what you're doing, the anchor course that's involved in it. And and there's this place called the Shelter Institute in Maine. In 3 weeks, they teach you how to design and build a home. I mean, the first 2 weeks are all about design. The third week, actually, all you do is erect a timber frame of a home. You don't actually do all the detail in the homing. But in those first 2 weeks, you learn enough so you can design your own home. To know how electrical works, to understand how plumbing works, to basically, just understand how the world works. There's another one where you become a certified heavy equipment operator, where you go and you spend, I think that one's 5 weeks long, actually, and you operate all the bulldozers and front loaders and all that shit. And you're certified on it, and that could be a good career for you if you chose to. A lot of these anchor courses do make you economically viable. For instance, my son, he got the EMT thing, and then one cycle is a work cycle, one of the 16, and he spent that work cycle on wildfires in Oregon as an EMT making $600 a day. To me, that was shockingly good money. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of different ones like those. There's welding in there. Currently, he's in the entrepreneurship cycle. His next cycle is the fighter cycle, where he's gonna be in Thailand for 3 months studying Muay Thai.
My son lived in Thailand too. He loved it.
It's hard not to. The Thai people are so beautiful and sweet. It's hard not to. It's a very strange place. But part of this is every young men know, well, let's say, young men all want to be somebody. And they know that they must do something worthy for that to be true. So they're searching for it. And no one has anything on offer for them to do that. No one has anything. But when you do something and you start stacking the skills, as Scott Adams would say, but through these cycles, you become, I mean, Max is the most impressive 20-year-old with the diversity of shit he's done that you'll meet. By the time he's done, I mean, I don't even know where it's going to go. But I do know he'll have plenty of options. He's been offered several things, and he takes advantage of almost everything he gets. You know, like he worked for a gold mining company you might know, doing on a geophysics crew in Nevada for 3 weeks. Didn't pay as good as the wildfire thing did, but it was a good experience. Well, he didn't say it was a good experience. It was a hard experience and hot. But certainly exposed him to the world. And the whole idea is at the end, Doug's the Renaissance man is the ideal, right, in his mind. That's what is a
So how does Max connect with the opportunity? Is that part of, does he get help from adults on that? How does that work?
Well, early on, for accountability reasons, you know, I've had the unfortunate responsibility of managing a lot of people in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I set up systems make it so they can manage themselves better. I said, just publish publicly on Substack. No one who knows who you are, doesn't matter. But publish what you got done that week. Every week, just what you got done. And so he started doing that. And at first it was a very crude and confusing list. You know, the books he's reading, all this stuff is just confusing because there's no context. And ultimately now he's like actually become a competent writer. You know, and along the way, he's built thousands of followers. And they think, and they're all parents or grandparents, you know, who see it and they go, man, I like what you're doing. I like what you're doing. And so they say, hey, you know, I know you like horses and stuff, but have you ever done any like mule packing? You know, he likes like the West, right?
So they offer him the opportunity
Yeah.
from this Substack?
Yeah, that's how he got offered the paramedic gig. That's, I mean, Bracken is the one who suggested the sailing thing, and that, you know, technically he sent it to me, but he was well aware of what Max was doing. So yeah, people show up, and this is the way the real life works. Actually, if you are out engaged in novel activity, doing something, building a set of skills that like make you very different than other people, make you carry yourself different than other people. I mean, even his first thing, the EMT thing, knowing that he can encounter a bad situation and actually know what to do changes the way he walked, okay? It changed him. And what did it take to get to the EMT? It was like $1,500. It was a half a day, twice a week for 4 months. That's what it was, you know, that's all it was. It's not a lot, but it was very specific. And of course, then he did lots of follow-up stuff after that, and then, you know, actually working on the fire crews where they had injuries to treat and stuff like that. But I love having him, like he's in Uruguay now. I'm glad. Like when I broke my hand when he wasn't here, I'm like, really, wish we'd been around. You know, so he's got real competencies. He's a qualified crewman on a sailboat, so he can go work on any sailboat anywhere in the world. You know, and these things do have real economic value. But the point of the Renaissance man thing, and of course, he's learned to play chess and he plays guitar and he learned a second language, and you know, there's a long list of stuff that's all part of it, and we lay it out exactly what to do. Here's the courses you take online. There are some spaces for electives. Here's the anchor course. Here's the place to call to do it. You know, it's all laid out. It was a huge pain in the ass to do it, actually. But it's so because you have to give what a young person needs, who knows they need to do something that's worthy. They need a challenge. They need an adventure. Every man craves a hero's journey. Every boy does. And if you haven't had it by the time you're an adult, there's an empty spot in there. So everybody craves it, and they crave it too. And this process, the whole thing is a hero's journey. Part of going to Thailand is the exposure to this exotic, totally different, doesn't make any sense. The way you think things don't work there. It's not like that. But of course, travel without a purpose, I think can be eat, pray, lovish, which is a mistake. You know, traveling with a purpose, where you're going to acquire real skills, I think can be like a huge boon to a young man's life. So this book is basically, like I said, designed as a alternative to college. In total, the cost, if you did everything in here over 4 years, it'd be about $73,000. But there are a couple things in here that are really expensive. You don't have to do them. We show you how to build. We show you how to build your own cycle. There could be other things, not just the things that we chose. Getting your pilot's license is expensive. The heavy equipment operator thing is expensive. So if you could cut it down a lot by doing that. But ultimately, you end up with a person who understands how the world actually works and understands what they need to do to engage in it successfully. That's preparing somebody for the real world. College fails completely in that regard. They do not know how the world works. They live in an institution. Maybe they aren't saddled with that when they leave. Maybe they have a high-paying job, so the debt won't matter. But they are not ready for the real world. That's why millennials invented the term adulting, because they recognized this was something new that they were not prepared for, and they objectified it.
And the word on the street, by the way, is that people are hiring recent college grads are particularly disappointed.
Yeah, you mean the quality of them is lower.
Yeah, they show up and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, this kid can't do shit.
You know, I had when the book came out, James Altucher is an old friend, and I don't know if you know who James Altucher is.
I do.
Okay. So he had me on his podcast, and he told me, you know, he went to elite universities studying computer science. Mm-hmm. So went to grad school, computer science. His first job, they immediately sent him to remedial training because he could not keep up with his peers as a graduate of computer science. So that was then. I've hired lots of people right out of college. They don't know anything. You have to teach them. You have to teach them the job. You know, that's just how it is.
So there's a college-driven analogy to that. I came to Cornell. I wasn't a great student. I got in for reasons that have nothing to do with being a good student. But I used my electives much better than most. And so I was a genetics major and ended up getting a PhD in organic chemistry, right? That's an odd path. I was always afraid not of crashing and burning, failing, but rather succeeding at a mediocre level. So in many ways, that's what you're. So it didn't terrify me at all, the idea that I would just hit a bridge abutment, on something. It terrified me that I would just. What I would do would not be of much value. So when I got out of my PhD, here I'm going to brag, I broke Columbia's PhD record, I think, for shortest PhD. Oh. I worked for a brand new assistant professor, and I got my degree in 2.5 years. I got to Cornell, I switched fields again. And again, it was one of these things where I think maybe I was hiding behind thinking I will have an excuse for failing as opposed to not having an excuse for failing. And there's a sports psychology thing where that's a problem. So the guy who gets hurt right before the big game so he can excuse his poor performance. So maybe that's what I was doing, but I kept succeeding. So that was good. But related, I'm not a particularly handy guy, but I took a 14-hour-a-day crash course on how to build a house. And I haven't built a house with it, but I understand what's in a house. And so this is why your course made so much sense. The minute the first I heard of it, I go, I skydived when I was 16 years old, which is not legal, but I lied. And I jumped 10 times, but it's like a merit badge. I have my skydiving merit badge, right? That sort of thing. So
Doug has 72 jumps, by the way.
Right. Well, my last jump was during a fundraiser to raise money for the widow of my instructor, and I found it okay. and so I don't have a lot of things like that because my path has actually been, although I've tried to make it unpredictable, I've had one job in my adult life and stuff like that. My son, on the other hand, went to the CFR, then quit and went to Thailand to teach English as a second language. And they tried to get him to stay, and they tried to bribe him. They give him bonuses and stuff like that. And when he left, they gave him the bonus anyways. They sent an emissary there one time after about a year, saying, "Would you come home?" He said no. And then he came back, and now he's interviewing for jobs. And if you're directing events at the council, you are in the big leagues, right? Your resume needs nothing else. And at one point, I said to him, "You should put that whole Thailand thing in your resume." He wasn't gonna. He's being interviewed for a big job now. And they said, "What'd you do for 2 years?" And he told them, they said, "You should put that on your resume," right? And I told him that. I said, "It's easily explained. You were at the council and you realized you had to get out there," right? And then he was at the council for a while again, and then he moved to Uruguay. Well, what he did while he was at the council is he set up his job so he could do it from Uruguay. And so he did a remote, and I thought that would be unstable, but then we ended up in the Zoom world, and it became more and became better. Now he lives in New Hampshire in a small little Currier Knives lithograph hamlet. His wife works at a prep school, and he runs aspects of the events from New Hampshire. And he's got a business, and as we've talked about, but people are going to find this entertaining, he's got a startup where he's helping. This is amazing, actually. He's helping to get into HVAC repair. There's a first step, a certification step. His business does that, and he charges, I think, $3,000, and you get your HVAC certification. And then when you get a job, they then train you, really. But the certification is the thing you got to get. And that's what he provides them. And so he is a subset of your world. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that you would do, right?
Yeah.
And
I think it's great. But what is it about your son so different? It's like one of the biggest problems people have is when they just go with the flow.
He wasn't going to do that because he was such a shitty student that, like you said, it's what makes him more entrepreneurial, because he didn't get caught in a rut.
Well, one of the things I talk about there, like how the world works, is Rene Girard, who has a lot of ideas, but he talks about mimetic desire. He says humans are in that they learn what they want by looking around and seeing what others want. That's why you see fashion the way it is. That's why these trends in fashion, especially, you see them go that way.
Bell bottoms.
Exactly. I remember when 2007 I moved to Argentina, all the women are beautiful, have long hair, and then all of a sudden they just all together cut their hair really nasty, like really made them all really ugly. And I'm like, why would you do this? But they all did it. Fashion trends are like that. And they looked around. And so if you are like with this track of people, your peers, which are at least as dumb as you are,
right,
and they are the people you're mirroring, and the things that they want are the things that you feel sincerely that you should pursue, you are going to be less than you would otherwise be if you were alone in a room and could imagine what was possible for yourself. Or if you if you had some structure or some excuse to go out and pursue that path, like in Thailand, to go teach English, or whatever, just it's an excuse for me to go and see what's possible, to get an understanding of the world and myself. So I just think if you're in that, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most, that kind of thing, like you got to mix that up in dramatic ways, I think, in order to see what's possible.
Malcolm Gladwell, in his Revenge of the Tipping Point. A lot of people hate Gladwell. A lot of people like Gladwell. Revenge of the Tipping Point is kind of a 25-year anniversary of the tipping point. He talks about a school where everyone is completely homogenized, and they had a suicide problem that emerged. And one of the problems is that they were so homogeneous that it became this epidemic.
It's like anorexia in the past.
Yeah, exactly. And what he says is he said, if you are in a school that has niches, different niches, like the goths and the jocks and the students and you name it, you find your niche. But if everyone's homogeneous, all of a sudden you don't fit, or your niche turns sour. But you're in trouble.
Because that's way better than being homogenous like that. But the best is to choose your own path.
Right.
It's the confidence that comes from that. I mean, like my son is incredibly independent. I mean, he's done all this stuff. He's done it all. Like, daddy's not there to help him. I saved a irresponsibly small amount of money for him in a Vanguard account. I didn't even meet the gift tax limits, like it really was irresponsible of me. But, in total, it was about $70,000. Okay. So, but
I'm not
today,
sure it's irresponsible, but.
Well, I could give $18,000 a year to it. So
no, I know. My point being, but if you read Millionaire Next Door, one of the trickiest things is to pass wealth to the next generation without distorting them.
Yeah, I agree with it. But it's actually easier. It's all how, it's a problem, but I think it's mostly because people are shitty parents. I don't think it's that hard to do. Have a relationship with your kids.
But it does talk about what you have to worry about.
Yeah. Well, and also, I could always just say he doesn't ever have to know that this custodial account exists if he's a bad kid, if it's a profit.
Yeah, right. Well, that's true.
He's going to kill himself with it, But, I should have met the minimum tax things at least. Anyway,
right.
He today, though, has more money than he did when he started 2 years ago. He hasn't used that because you can actually work your way through it. That's the amazing thing. Like, you can't work your way through college anymore, but you can work your way through it.
Oh, you can. It's hard. It's so expensive. When I went to grad school, they paid me a stipend, right? So in theory, you're autonomous, but it was like $4,400
so you don't
a year.
starve. Yeah.
So you don't starve. Yeah. I actually left Columbia, New York City, with more money than I started.
And that's part of the things we teach about. Like, I'm like real hard line on the economics part. We talk about like debt, what debt really is. Debt is you stealing from your future. That's what it is.
Right.
And so
it's consumption pulled forward.
Yes, and that is a huge mistake, 100% every time.
Well, and you see that problem. Here's where you see it. For example, we have these different cafes on campus where kids can eat. And you see them getting, mocha lattes and stuff. And I go, when you get out there in the world, you're not going to be able to afford that mocha latte.
That's adulting.
That's adulting. Yeah. And
it's not the kid's fault. We've infantilized them.
It is not the kid's fault.
Because it's all about the have and not the be or the do.
Well, that's definitely part of it. They're surrounded by the have, but they're also the most surveilled, tracked, scheduled, managed people that have ever lived on Earth.
Can I interrupt you real quick? I know we're wrapping up here, but I have a friend of mine. She's still looking at her daughter's location who's in college right now.
That's insane.
She looks at her location all day long. My niece has graduated from college, and my sister still looks at her location.
They need therapy. They need therapy. It's like the transgender. If you have a kid who's transgender, they have a mental health problem. If you have two kids who are transgender, mom has a mental health problem.
100%.
I know somebody. I know somebody like that too, which that makes a lot of sense.
But you also
it is mom, by the way. It is also mom. The transgender kids, dads are not driving this, I don't think.
No, but if dads were not little bitches, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. They should grab mom by the scruff of the neck and say, quit doing this.
Yeah, this is unacceptable. And this is one of the problems. I mean, when we talk about the B part is when dangerous, the term dangerous, of course you should be able to physically defend yourself. I know you were really into martial arts. I like BJJ. We have a whole cycle.
How did you know that?
Because I watch you. I like you. I watch your stuff. I'm a fan.
I don't remember talking about it.
You talked about it.
Okay.
You've talked about it a number of times. You just
okay. So dementia's setting in then. Okay, pops
so.
out. Yeah.
So anyway, that's important. Defend yourself, and others. But that's not really what we mean. The most dangerous person is somebody who knows who they are. They know who they are, and they know what they stand for, and they're willing to say no. They're willing to think for themselves, or they have the ability to think for themselves. They know where to draw a line in the sand and say, nope, not doing that. That's unacceptable. And the reason that people complain about women all the time, that the women are a problem, it's only because there aren't men. So the women are filling the vacuum, and it makes them crazy.
Where can people find the book, Matt?
Amazon.com. Yeah, that's the place to get it. We also have a Substack set up. It's thepreparation.com. And probably more importantly, my son, if you want to see proof of work, to use a Bitcoin term, the last 2 years, what he's been doing, it's on maximsmith.com.
I'll put all the links for that too. And then your Twitter, your X, and your Substack?
Mattfias, and it's the work I do, I guess, if you call it work, is I have a podcast with Doug Casey called Doug Casey's Take. You should watch Doug. You should listen to Doug. I am just there to facilitate Doug's trying to get him to talk. And then we have crisisinvesting.com, which is a financial newsletter where mostly oriented toward resource stocks, which is Doug's specialty.
Dave?
Under my desk, as I always say. I can be found at Twitter at David B. Collum. I write an annual review, which every year I swear I can't do it this year, and then so far I've done it.
And they're available on Amazon?
Well, so what's happening, it turns out, is that Bob Moriarty is not only binding them from 2009 forward, but he's paying for it. He's paying for editing, and he's paying some guy to do it. So, and dealing with Bob is interesting because he doesn't mince words. So I'll say something. I'll say, quit being a pussy, right? I go, okay, Bob, I got it. I don't know if we're going to get them all bound before the first of the year, which would be nice.
Yeah.
But I've got 3 or 4 years left. It's probably about 3,000 or 4,000 pages that we're trying to get into bound form. So it's getting in my way. It's getting in my life's way. But I got to do it.
But right now you can buy on Amazon 2009 through 2012 plus as
14.
one unit, and then
30.
I see 2022 and 2024.
Should be 2023 in there, and there should be 2013, 14, and 15.
Well, either way, you can get these on Amazon, and I read them, but I've read them on PDF, and they're fantastic.
But it's getting harder because what I like to do is write them. I like to be funny. I mean, I like to make them entertainingly funny, and I think I can. But the world's not as funny as it used to be. And so it's very hard. It's hard to write about child trafficking and make jokes, right? Let's start with that. Yeah, I'm going to try, though. I'm going to try. It's hard to write about Israel.
You've got to make fun of the assholes around it.
That's right. It's an art form here. And so I'm going to try to write one yet again this year, but I feel like I'm a little behind. And otherwise, taking a month off from podcasting wasn't such a bad idea. I think I was wearing out.
I think we made a comeback with this one though, because we're coming in on almost 3 hours. So.
I don't know what you do, Dave, to keep me on the phone this long.
I've talked to you on the phone for 2 hours before, Matt. Guys, thank you so much for doing this.
Well, actually, I should say one other thing. You should definitely, since you plug my stuff, you should plug your stuff.
Oh, yeah, Mike. You just donate to Mike, subscribe to Mike.
There's a reason why people like Dave, I won't count myself in this, who basically is in high demand on the podcast circuit, keeps coming back to talk with Mike. It's because Mike is sincere and honest and does a great job. If you like what he does and you want him to keep doing it, you have to support him. And the best thing to do is support him on Substack. It's hard to make a living doing this, and doing it because you love it and like talking to people is great, but ultimately the rent must be paid. So if you have gotten any value out of anything Mike has done over the last several years, as I have, and you don't pay, you're not a very good person. I'll say quite honestly, I believe in the law of reciprocity. If you've gotten good and if you've gotten value and you don't deliver value in return, that's a moral dilemma.
Well, I donated all my money to Erica Kirk and TPUSA.
Me too.
Yeah, seems like a good cause.
Guys, I appreciate this. And then for those who are listening too, comment on YouTube, comment on Rumble, comment on the audio, the Apple, Spotify. And to what Matt said, I get early access to all my paid subscribers on Substack. So if you like what I'm doing and you value it, would appreciate support. So also I have Patreon and Venmo and Buy Me a Coffee.
Just go to Substack. Just sign up for Substack.
Just go to Substack. Yeah. Forget what I just said. Go to Substack. Thanks, guys. I look forward to the next one. And, this is a great conversation. This might be the longest one ever. So
Adios.
mic drop.
Thanks.